您看
Hello,
到
good
的
morning,
不
good
只是
evening.
一场歌舞表演，而是
What-
5000文明的
I'm
辉
getting some,
煌重生，
Chinese ad
华夏
going over
古风的真实再现。
my
神韵带
sound
您
here.
体验一个没有共产主义的传统中国。
What is this? There we go. That is off. How's everyone doing? Oh, it is 10 a.m. Taipei. It's finally stopped raining. It is 10 p.m. Can't wait to hear Preston say camera overlay. You know, there's actually a way I can just program in the intro and then not have to worry about it, but I haven't done it yet. Okay. All right. So what's going on? What do people want to talk about? Yeah, it was just some ad, you know, so I have multiple windows open, and one of the ads started playing some ad because, you know, I live here in Taiwan, so I was something there. All right. Learning languages with Preston. I don't know, if you hear my Chinese or my Spanish or my Arabic, they're pretty pathetic, so you'll just laugh. You'll just laugh at me. Attack on the Titan. I started it. I got busy with other things and other shows, so I started it, and it's just freaking long. So, but it's going. Let's see here. Do I exist? I guess we just proved you exist. So there's this theory. There's this. Most people, of course, have heard of, like, I think, therefore I am. But many people say, well, that doesn't really prove anything. You can think all day, and that doesn't prove you exist at all. It's more that you speak, therefore I am, and meaning that, you know, you've shown that you're interacting with the world, and therefore you exist. But then others say, well, hold on, that's the only thing that you know happens is what appears to you, but the appearing itself is proof that you exist, because it must appear to your thinking. But and it goes back to that. So sadly, I haven't talked about this with Carmine. He sent me the link, and I was like, no, Raised by Wolves canceled. For those that didn't watch, which is apparently everybody, Raised by Wolves was just the weirdest, most bonkers, most ambitious show that was on. I couldn't believe. I mean, the only reason it was put on the air is because Ridley Scott wanted it put on the air, and he used his clout to do so. But there was no reason that a show like Raised by Wolves should have ever been on the air. It was so different and so weird, and so classic sci-fi in so many ways. Like it was and they put so much money and effort, and it was just so weird and bonkers. I'm not saying it didn't suck, but it's like I'm happy that it existed. In what it did and what boundaries it pushed and things like that. I'm not saying it worked, but it was like such a creative risk, and it was so different from everything else that, like, I was so happy that it was there. I mean, I loved watching it, even though it wasn't necessarily great. I mean, I love watching Westworld, and I think Westworld is absolute trash. But, like, I love the process of watching Westworld, because it's so ridiculous. And so the Raised by Wolves was like Westworld in that it was just crazy and ridiculous, but at the same time it was so much more creative and out there than Westworld. Like Westworld, it was the same old kind of tropes. I'd never seen anything like Raised by Wolves on TV. before, right? Like, sure, there's elements of Ridley Scott in it. Like, there's elements of Alien, a lot of elements of Alien, but it was so different. Yeah, I mean, the closest things I can actually come up with are actually Ice and Fire, like book Ice and Fire, like and Twin Peaks kind of weirdness, you know? Like, there was really a plot of fake visions pushing people into believing prophecy and fulfilling prophecy on an alien world of atheists and religious zealots. It was Raised by Wolves, House of the Dragon crossover episode. Gotta be lit. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. I mean, they had werewoods. They pretty much had werewoods on Raised by Wolves, and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. They had dragons, more or less. You know, it was so good. It was so good and so bad at the same time. Yeah, I'd like to talk about this actually. And this gets into The Boys too. They were going with this idea that atheism and religious zealots were both wrong. And this is very kind of late Ridley Scott. Like, we see a lot of this in Prometheus. Him believing that there's some sort of bridge between religion and science, and that the way forward is to understand and accept that bridge, and that there's which, it's not the first time I've seen people like try to make these comments like, oh, we need to bridge like science and philosophy or science and religion, as if there was. But what people fail to do is really push forward a solid criticism of like the science way. You know, Ridley Scott was attempting it in Raised by Wolves. Like, he was pushing. I think it got his especially in the second season. So the first season just kind of portrayed the atheists as just as extreme as the zealots, but there were a lot more zealots on the show that season. So you really got the idea that the zealots were bonkers, and how could anyone be a zealot? While the atheists, yeah, they would go to extremes because they lived in an extreme world, but they didn't really put forward a sound argument on what is wrong with atheism. And then in the second season, he has an attempt at it. So the atheists are all ruled by this utilitarian computer that calculates what is beneficial for the most people over the largest amount of time and things like that. And so you get the hints of that criticism that, okay, the atheist way of life is not workable, but he doesn't quite go far enough. Like, I'm still as an atheist, I'm like, well, that computer only didn't work because it was doing really random stuff, like allowing mother to live and all sorts of things. It's like, yeah, the computer erased and programmed the guy with the glasses' mind and everything. And it was supposed to be this like, oh, the ends justify the means kind of attitude. But we didn't really get into why the atheists were wrong. And I think that's the big problem. But getting this to The Boys, the thing is like, when you spend all of your time, it's a lot easier to bash everything than to actually come up with solutions, right? And this is the problem with like South Park or The Boys, is that when you're sitting around bashing both sides all the time, but you don't actually put forward a coherent like idea on how to make the world better. Like, what are you doing? You're just kind of being an anarchist or a nihilist or something. Like, all you're kind of doing is tearing everything down. And so, I used to love South Park in the early days, and there are certain episodes of South Park that are just fucking genius. But then there's just a lot of episodes of South Park where they try to do this both sides are bad idea, and I just started hating it. Like, there's an episode of South Park where Kyle's dad buys a Prius and he's going around town like being all smug about the fact that he owned a Prius. And they try to portray smugness as bad as global warming and pollution, which it's not. like in the episode, like the town becomes all filled with smug and they can't. But like in the real world, like no, like pollution and global warming will destroy society while smugness is just something that's mildly annoying. And so the boys is kind of doing this right now, and I'm not really even less focused than South Park, because they're just they're kind of bashing liberals or something. Like they go to Votland, and Votland is all obsessed with like having LGBT superheroes and things like that. And it's like, yeah, you're throwing shade, but at the same time, like, what's the downside? Like, what's the bad to it? And they're doing their best, but I mean, or they include a character that's clearly AOC, but I'm not sure how it's really AOC. Like, what's your actual like criticism of AOC? And it's like, I'm not quite sure what they're saying by having like the Nadia character being AOC. It doesn't. Let's see. Popular stories go in waves: vampires, zombies, medieval, apocalypse stuff, fantasy, elves. What do you think is next on the shelf? Wild West. I think we're stuck in right now in the fantasy medieval wave right now. I think like right now we've got superheroes, which I think is coming to an end. I think people are getting sick of superheroes, which means in a good 10 years, we might finish with that. But obviously, like with Game of Thrones, they put all of these like fantasy shows in the works, and they kind of said, okay, let's do Wheel of Time, House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings is back. And even the Game of Thrones wave didn't start with Game of Thrones. It started with Lord of the Rings. So the fact that we're back at Lord of the Rings is just, we're just cycling through. But Lord of the Rings started it all, brought us back all to fantasy. So we're kind of stuck in this. So I think we're done with zombies, right? Hopefully, even though there's still 75 zombie shows on the air. Like, how many Walking Dead shows are on the air right now? 75. So I feel like zombies are done. I feel like we have had a lull in vampires for a while. I guess like Angel and then Twilight. I mean, Buffy and Angel and Twilight kind of happened, and then we could definitely go back to vampires. Medieval, apocalypse stuff. I think we're done with apocalypse for now. I do feel like we're getting back to sci-fi and space. Like, this is just, this is based on nothing. Like the fact that The Expanse like came out and was like really loved by people, and even Dune, even though it's fantasy, it's bringing back space again. I mean, Dune is more fantasy than sci-fi, but it's I mean, granted, Star Wars is in space, but it's always kind of space fantasy. But I'd like to see like real science fiction like come back. They're trying to push it with more Star Trek and stuff, and Expanse, but something gritty and real like The Expanse. I would love to see, especially the early seasons of The Expanse. I would love to see more of that. Man, that would be really great. But I think we have a long way until that. I think we're going to be shuffling through fantasy. I mean, we have to wait for House of the Dragon to fail. We have to wait for Lord of the Rings to fail. We have to wait for Wheel of Time to fail. Like, they're probably all going to fail at once, like third season. And then, so come 2025, maybe we'll have some good space stuff back again, because that's what I want to see. I've wanted to ask your opinion. Obsidian vaporizes the others. What are the implications of that on your interregnum sci-fi theories? I'm not sure if it I mean, so when we say interregnum, for all those that maybe everybody on the stream is now pretty familiar with interregnum and Thousand Worlds, but George R. R. Martin wrote for most of his career in this sci-fi universe. Well, I guess not most of his career now. Now most of his career has been Game of Thrones, but for a good 20 years he wrote sci-fi stories that mainly took place on planets that had gone through a decline, and then there was this pause in technology, and then there was kind of rediscovering technology. And this the reason he does this is because it's very much Jack Vance, Dying Worlds kind of thing. He loved Conan the Barbarian. You can see there's actually a great cartoon called Thundar the Barbarian when I was young. That really put the interregnum idea forward about rediscovering technology. And then but he was really into Jack Vance and so all of his stuff kind of had this idea that there was once this really big futuristic society in the past, and now things have fallen, and we're kind of rising up and rediscovering this technology, which is indistinguishable from magic. And so when I talk about like the others being vaporized by obsidian, I've thought about like the sci-fi science aspect of why that would be, and the best I could come up with is that obsidian, or what might be mistaken for obsidian, because I think, for instance, a glass candle might not actually be obsidian, but might be silicon, and it might be black silicon, and they think it looks like obsidian because that's what silicon looks like. And so silicon is a semiconductor, and which means like at absolute zero, it is 100% resistant to electrical currents, while when it gets heated, it has more and more conductivity. And so my idea was that somehow the other's armor is some sort of electrical system, but if you interrupt that electrical system with a piece of obsidian, because it's very, very cold, that you're stopping the somehow the electric current, and the entire like system malfunctions, it explodes or something like that. That was the best I could come up with. It's not exactly like scientifically accurate, but George R. R. Martin isn't necessarily scientifically accurate. But this is my idea that obsidian was interrupting some sort of like, and obsidian at absolute zero being a perfect, or being near absolute zero being a perfect insulator, was somehow had to do with the destruction of the other's armor or something. When you get to the end of the dance in seasons 2 and 3, do you think the showrunners will change the name of Kermit, Oscar, Tully? I hope so. George R. R. Martin loves that idea. He thinks Kermit and Oscar, like he thinks the Muppet names for these guys is hilarious. He thinks it's great. I think they should be changed. I think it takes people out of it. But yeah. But but it depends. I don't know how much sway does George have. Will he try to insist on it? I don't know. But yeah, that's the thing, is when you have a little too much connection to the real world, I think it takes people out of the world. I mean, granted, these are all meant to remind us of things in our own world, or Lord of the Rings, and everything is based on something else. But Kermit and Oscar, I mean, and Elmo, I think there's an Elmo too. At some point you got to be like, come on, like, do you think Lightbringer will be a genitalia joke? It has to plunge into Nisa Nisa. The light it brings to the world could be love. Maybe. These are things that like I don't necessarily think George even came up with like an answer to at the time. He was just like writing some stuff and like, I'll figure it out later. But, he makes so many references to swords being dicks and dicks being swords that, like, could it actually be like is Lightbringer actually somebody's phallus the entire time? Let's bring up the Nisa Nisa Azor Ahai prophecy, which even in story they kind of like push the legend around in order to try to make it the same as the prince that was promised, and they don't really fit like that. But let's see here. Let's bring up the Nisa Nisa legend, which Salladhor Saan kind of tells. All right. Legend of Azor Ahai states that Azor Ahai, during his third try, forged a sword to battle the darkness called Nisa Nisa. After working on his sword for 100 days and 100 nights, so he right, he played with himself for 100 days and 100 nights. To finish his sword, he drove it through Nisa Nisa's breast. Her blood, soul, strength, and courage went into the steel of the sword, creating Lightbringer. Following the sacrifice, Lightbringer was warm as Nisa had been in life. Nisa Nisa's cry of anguish and ecstasy left a crack across the face of the moon. Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to think of the sexual aspects of it when Nisa Nisa is crying in ecstasy. Which makes me think that George actually was thinking about it being a genitalia joke when he first had it. Though, doesn't he plunge it into a lion before that and things like that? Let me get actually the actual quote here. It's so ridiculous. Because, again, I'm a believer that all the prophecy is bullshit, for the most part. Placed there by a time-traveling Bran. So he doesn't actually shove he says, Nisa, Nisa, he said to her, bare your breast, and know that I love you best of all that is the world. She did the thing. Why, I cannot say. And Azor Ahai thrust the smoking sword through her living heart. And it is said her cry of anguish and ecstasy left a crack across the face of the moon. Could it not have been the living heart and he just like thrust it inside her? I guess so. But her blood and soul. But yeah, before he captured a lion and he tempered the blade by thrusting it into the beast's red heart. So I guess he was having sex with a lion before he had sex with Nisa Nisa. I think that's I actually don't think that there's going to be any sort of clear fulfilling of the Azor Ahai prophecy. It'll probably be something very abstract where fans in retrospect, I mean, the book's never coming out, but if it were to actually come out, like, fans in retrospect would be like, oh yeah, no, this is totally what he was thinking about. Yeah. What is your backup plan when Penny is the good guy and never betrays Tyrion? That's a good question, because then you have to ask, what was Littlefinger thinking, right? Like, how can Littlefinger marry off Sansa if she's already engaged? You'd have to have some sort of system where he bribes the High Sparrow to do something. Or you'd have to have some sort of other assassin or other plan to get rid of Tyrion. But it's a real tough situation. Take a shot. But Littlefinger's plan makes no sense, like, as we have it now, right? His plan is supposedly to have Sansa reveal herself and then marry Harry the Heir, so that she can retake Winterfell. So, and then even if you're taking Harry the Heir out of it and you want him to marry Sansa or something like that, or anyone else, like Sansa is very valuable as someone to marry. Not, she's useless if she's engaged to Tyrion, or she's useless. She's not even engaged. She's useless if she's married to Tyrion. She's literally married to Tyrion. Okay, you have to have a high sept and set that aside. So how are you going to do it? Which is I sort of see like Tyrion surviving and then him being like, well, we can't reveal her. I guess she's got to stay as Elaine Stone for a while. So if Penny never betrays Tyrion, I mean, I could very well see George R. Martin like place it as a paranoia in Tyrion's head, and then somehow he lets Penny die, and she was perfectly good. But there still has to be some other mechanism out there for Littlefinger to knock off Tyrion. Sending a raven saying that he was killed, he's presumed dead. I don't know. Bribing the High Sparrow, something has to be done. But backup plan when Penny is a good guy. Penny's never going to be revealed as a good guy, so I don't have to worry about it. What do you think of the controversy regarding Strange New Worlds plagiarizing an Ursula K. Le Guin short story and not giving credit? Really, I had not heard this. I haven't seen any Strange New Worlds. A lot of people watched it and say that it's pretty good. But let me see about this. Because a lot of times with sci-fi, they will take a sci-fi idea that's just kind of in fandom in general. Like for instance, androids rising up against human beings. Like I don't even know who the first author was who like came up with the idea of androids like rising up over human beings. I mean, maybe it was Isaac Asimov. I don't, that, but some of these things have become tropes, and then they don't even know where they're stealing from. Let's see. Day the Earth starts. In episode 6 of Strange New Worlds, titled "Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach," Captain Pike encounters an old flame, a woman named Alora, who is now guarding a special child, the first servant. Longtime fans of the franchise were likely less surprised when the story beats continue to follow Trek tradition, Alora being revealed as a villain once she and Pike have rekindled the romance. Yes, of course. The entire episode sees the Majolans around the first servant treating him as precious, and all the indication points of him being coronated as their leader soon, as long as he doesn't get kidnapped by a fringe group. Except in the episode's final moments, we learn that the Enterprise crew has it wrong. The first servant's obsession isn't to the throne, but to a secluded and ritualistic torture chamber. The child is locked into a machine where his life force will be sucked out and used to power the luxurious lifestyle of those who live above. A small skeleton lets us know he's not the first kid to receive this fate. And this is this is the story essentially of the 1973 story, The One Who Walks Away. I mean, this idea of like child sacrifice as being a mechanism for like the fueling of society is certainly not new. I mean, this has been around forever. I mean, they say it's probably in the Brothers K and many things before that. In real life, people sacrifice children. I mean, it's the plot of it's the plot of Snowpiercer and things like that. But I guess the fact of like literally finding his life force being sucked out of his skeleton. I mean, maybe they, you'd think if someone were a sci-fi big enough sci-fi fan to read this story and then lift it, that they would know that people would catch them, and that they would change it enough or something. I think maybe they just, it could be a coincidence. But like I say, these have become tropes, right? Like at this point, that of child sacrifice being the things fueling society. I mean, it's ice and fire too. I mean, George clearly thinks that like sending children off to war is the equivalent to child sacrifice, and obviously like that's the parable being like told to us, like, isn't it horrible that our luxuries are on the back of like children? Well, that's the society we live in, right? Like little kids are in sweatshops making our shoes and stuff like that. Could be a coincidence, but like I say, like it's like, it's like music. If you grab somebody's song, like you can probably find somebody else that has a similar song and accuse them of plagiarism. I don't know. I'd have to really read the story and see the episode to really know. The Three Body Problem has a show coming out. I also wondering if you watched Dark and Foundation. So when I was young, I read a bunch of Foundation books. I have not seen Foundation yet. Carmine watched it and he told me he liked it, and that I should watch it, but I haven't gotten around to it. Dark, I'm halfway through, but I've been interrupted by other things, so I'll get back to that. People have talked so much about the Three Body Problem that I probably will watch the show. Everyone's telling me that I should read the book, but at the same time they say that the book is not actually well written, that it's more of about the story. So yeah, I think I probably will watch the Three Body Problem, just because I'm being lazy, and getting through the books might not be an easy read. I'm 100% into the interregnum theory. In that regards, what is a shy? So a shy is kind of weird. The more we hear about it, the weirder it is. So it's dark all the time in a shy, and there's no children and stuff like that. And so some people wonder, okay, how can some place be dark all the time? Does it have some sort of cloud above it? Is the sun never reached that part of the planet because of the tilt of the Earth? Something like that. I think it sounds like there's serious radiation and that people don't have children because they don't want to have mutant kids. I would say that's likely a reason that there's too much radioactivity around a shy. I mean, they talk about like glowing grass and things like that. So I think a shy, had some sort of big, nuclear accident or something. But for the most part, though, if you look around the Planetos, like there's so many subterranean societies with tunnels underground that make it seem like people spent time under Earth after some sort of either long night or nuclear winter. They're probably one and the same kind of idea. And so it definitely seems like there was some sort of, huge global event that threw everybody underground. If you want to think it's just magical and that it was the long night, sure, but it's pretty easy to just say that, oh, it was a nuclear winter or something like that kept people underground. But yeah, I mean, a shy, what's the descriptions now? Because is it just no kids and dark all the time? And because dark all the time means, I mean, maybe that means like there's still ash being shot out that constantly puts it in shadow, like a steady shade. Um, a shy sprawls for leagues across both sides of the ash. I mean, so now we're getting this thing with the name and the city and the river that it's actually ash in the air. It's Great Walls. Um, Allegedly could contain Volantis, Karth, and King's Landing, Old Town all combined. The population of Asshai is no more than a good-sized market town. By night, only 1 in 10 buildings shows light. So it's definitely this like dead city where people died, which is, I mean, it sounds very much like Dying of the Light, right? Where you've got this like planet going off into darkness with abandoned cities and things like this. The buildings were all made of black stone that drinks the light, making the city appear to be dark and gloomy. I would say that the black stone drinking the light are probably like solar panels or something, you know? And so that's actually also from Dying of the Light, because in Dying of the Light they have all of these glow stones that were solar, that would take in sunlight during the day and then use the energy at night. So I think Asshai is probably a similar situation. So now we're talking about like solar powered city, and if you're going to take out solar powered city, just like in the Matrix, you're going to try to shroud it from the sun. So you probably have some sort of situation where they were advanced and using solar power, and then ash or something came out from a volcano or a nuclear explosion or something and prevented it from its power source. The fish that dwell in the waters are blind and deformed. That all sounds like radiation. Only fools and shadowbinders dare eat the flesh. Okay. The waters glisten black beneath the noonday sun and shimmer phosphorescence by night. I mean, there's also like this idea of underground fish and things like that, but I do wonder what creates phosphorescent. Phosphorescence is an emission of radiation. So, yeah, it's definitely some sort of advanced city that has some nuclear fallout. Now, why the nuclear fallout doesn't move and shift, it might be that there's a continuous nuclear leak. Like maybe like they had some sort of nuclear power plant that got destroyed, and it like shoots out like a slow ash and leak that create like a localized nuclear winter continuously over the city or something like that. That'd be my guess. It's got to be something like that. Notice that places with Old Town, Old Wick, Old Stones, and Old Oak have magical significance. I wonder if Old Castle is special. I feel like House Lock is the key to understanding everything. I never thought of that. But it's true. I guess the word old are usually old places. Old places are associated with things that are magical. Old Castle. We haven't gotten much on House Lock in the book so far. Let's see if there's any more to find out. Though they have these special keys. What do the keys open? First Men, subjugated by House Stark. And that's it. It's certainly tough to yeah, we don't have anything on them except that their sigils are keys and that they're old. But I mean, they've been around since the house has been around since Game of Thrones, but I don't like. It's not like they were just like introduced in the last book or anything. But I don't know if we have anything on them. I guess speculation, but I don't know. Great kings that were subjugated and then sort of regained a little power later after the fall of the Grey Starks and the Flints of Wolf's Den. Who knows? If there's a time-traveling Bran, does he see the pre-existing Civ? So this is a real question. So this is like, is time-traveling Bran time-traveling within his own lifespan, or is he going back further? And so a lot of people hear about like all of the Brans of history, and they're like, oh, is Bran actually Bran the Burner and Bran the Builder? And is he the one whispering to people to build Storm's End and stuff like that? And it's, that's, it would be possible if it were some sort of circular timeline. But my problem with the idea that Bran is going back to the beginning of time and seeing all these sorts of things is that he has to somehow create his own existence. And that's the amount of precision to create your own existence is just far too much. Like, to get people to have sex at that exact moment, at the exact time, to have the exact sperm meet the exact egg, to produce like you, is unlikely. Now, who knows? I mean, maybe George is taking liberties with time travel, as a lot of people do with time travel. But in his previous time travel stories, he's very, very careful. And he really thinks about time travel and the paradoxes and the problems and all of that. So it's, I think that personally, I think it's most likely that time traveling Bran is time traveling within his own lifespan, trying to set right which once went wrong and hoping each time that his final leap is the leap home. But I think he's leaping within his own lifespan, going back within his own lifespan and reliving things. But because he has such like, he can see everything. He can see the whole world and know all these people, and he's done it perhaps thousands, millions of times, that I think he has all of the knowledge of the pre-existing Civ, even if he didn't go back in time to see it. But then again, crap, he's got the werewoods. He can look into the past too. So even if he's not time traveling and altering the past, like in the ancient past, like, he at least can go back and look at it. So he probably knows about the pre-existing Civs as long as there's werewoods around. So yeah, I would say that like he doesn't even need to time travel back to those moments. But if he has all of the werewoods and he can see everything, and he's been through this thing thousands of times, and he can see all around the world, yeah, I think he's definitely aware of the previous civilizations. He has to be, as far back as the werewoods go, which makes us think, they're pretty. It's pretty far. I mean, the really, really, really ancient civilizations are very mysterious in the sense that there's this giant petrified ship in sandstone and this giant ship on the Iron Isles, and for somebody to be petrified, petrification takes millions of years to petrify something. So there's something building these enormous ships millions of years ago that have been petrified, which is pretty insane. How do you think Sansa will defeat Littlefinger in the book? Jane Poole will be involved most likely. Varys too. Will it be at Harrenhal? I don't know if George has even thought of it or come up with it. Sansa was a new character in his big plan. He never had a big plan for Sansa in the end. But the but he so, or at least we don't know what parts of the plan were Arya's and which were Sansa's, because he split the characters. How will she defeat Littlefinger? I hope it's with her mind. I hope it's something clever. But like I say, I think if Tyrion stays alive, we can't marry Sansa off. There's no reason to reveal her. I think it's clever and interesting to go down the path of what Elaine Stone has, and her being the heir to Harrenhal. I think that's a more fun, interesting path of her being Elaine Baelish and like and taking Harrenhal in that respect. I don't know, like Jane Poole getting stuck at Winterfell, or I mean, I guess she's out of Winterfell, but Jane Poole, I guess, is going to the Wall. I don't know if there's much time to get Jane Poole back down to wherever Sansa is. Varys, I mean, who knows? Varys seems baffled by Littlefinger and Littlefinger's actions. So I'm not sure. But I would hope that it would be something Sansa related. Littlefinger, and I've been rethinking Littlefinger a lot lately, actually, and realizing that he's kind of a tragic character, and in that Littlefinger was raped when he was young by Lysa. And everybody kind of, chuckles and goes, "Oh, what's the big deal? He thought he was having sex with Cat," and stuff like that. But if you think about that, like, yeah, he didn't perceive it as a rape, but the trauma of that event, thinking that he had sex with Cat, sends him, like, alters the course of his entire life and sends him down this whole weird path of his life. And so you cannot deny that Littlefinger, like the rape of Littlefinger, did not drastically affect his life. And it's ironic that Littlefinger, whether he knew he was doing this or not, like, ends up like having revenge upon his rapist, which is a really, really weird kind of thing to think about. I mean, I don't know if George just like bringing up these uncomfortable things. But like, Littlefinger was raped, had trauma, led this entire crazy life because of the trauma he had and the experience he had, ended up killing his rapist, like, and having revenge of, and there's all sorts of weird things about like his, I mean, I feel like a long political video about like Lysa and abortion and sexual agency and the agency of and reproductive freedom is like needs to be talked about, because it's a really complicated situation that Littlefinger was raped and then Lysa wanted to have his child. And of course she was forced not to. And there's these odd things like today we kind of think, oh, if a woman's raped, like we should, most people, I think it's like 90% of people believe that women that are raped should be allowed to have an abortion. That you shouldn't have your reproductive freedom, like, controlled by somebody else. But Littlefinger literally had that taken away from him. Like, he was raped and then someone tried to have his kid, outside of his a blessing, and it was all we're dealing with all this whole reverse situation, right? Like, Lolly Stokeworth is raped and has to have this kid. A lot of characters are raped and have kids, right? In Ice and Fire, like Littlefinger was raped and was going to be forced to have a kid with someone that he didn't want to have a kid with, and it was only because of Hoster Tully's like forced abortion that he puts on Lysa that doesn't happen. But the entire trauma situation like just drastically affects Littlefinger. And so like Littlefinger is definitely like nuts and crazy and a villain. But at the same time, there are these like weird things about his life that that make him a bit tragic. And so I do wonder about like how cruel the death of Littlefinger, it needs to be. I guess in the show they just slit his throat and it wasn't so bad. But we really have to see like what, Sansa needing to find out about Littlefinger's role in betraying her father and things like that. And so it should be Sansa. It should be her to take him out and all of the manipulation that he's done. But at the same time, it's like, he's also kind of a tragic character. So I don't know. It's a weird situation. I feel Stannis's arc will end up cannibalized by his own men. Like Vargo Hoat, physically consumed in a cycle of vengeance. Brienne won't feel equitable justice. It's a This brings me to the show. Like, it's not that in the book we definitely have these seeds of these two things, these two missions of Brienne, of her needing justice for killing Renly, but her also needing to defend Sansa. And the show actually set up a very interesting dilemma, which I think Glytus in his last piss take like talks about this a bit. Like, you've got, they set it up like they took the seeds of like her two missions and they put them against each other, like in this actually interesting dilemma, like which takes precedence, like your vow to protect somebody or your vow to avenge somebody. And then they fucked it up and had her have her cake and eat it too. Like, they really just fucked it up. They set it up actually like fairly nicely. Like, she was supposed to protect Sansa, or she could go and like, kill Stannis. And then she chooses to do both, and it is totally able to do it, and uselessly, because Sansa, Stannis was dead anyway. It didn't matter. So ridiculous. But will Stannis be cannibalized by his own men? I'm trying to think, like, there's still plenty of horses. There's plenty of other bodies to eat besides Stannis. I mean, but it's like physically consumed is like intentional, right? Like Vargo Hoat, like the Polynesian island people that were doing cannibalism. Like, cannibalism in history is rarely done for sustenance. It's not like the situation in Alive, about the plane over Peru. It's usually done because you think you're getting somebody's essence. But would they physically consume him? I don't know. Who would? He's got a lot of like men around him that would want him burned or protected first. And people that want to sacrifice him the werewood might sacrifice him in front of a werewood before they'd cannibalize him. I just don't know any characters that would currently want to cannibalize him. To get his essence. But that'd be my thing. I'd be like, which character wants to eat him? Like Varamir Sixskins might, but like, but who else would want to? Who else would want to kill him? I mean, is the Weeper or somebody? It would have to be somebody like nuts like that who would want that knowledge. What happened to the Winds of Winter URL? Isn't it still? Let me see here. No, the Winds of Winter. I still have windsofwinter.com. So years ago, I bought windsofwinter.com. This was in my silliness. Like, I had heard news that thewindsofwinter.com URL was recently bought. And so everyone was like, it was one of those sweet summer child moments where everybody's like, oh my gosh, like The Winds of Winter has been bought. This means that maybe The Winds of Winter is coming out. And I was like, well, I'm going to buy windsofwinter.com. And yeah, no, nothing came out. But I now have windsofwinter.com. And it advertises just my page and like my analysis of its prepping of winter stuff. Now, should I put the fanfic chapters up there? My maybe it's just one of these things where it's like I'm trying not to have the thing be commercial. I could put it up, but you know, I'm trying to minimize the amount of trouble I would get into for you know, copyright kind of stuff. So that's all. I'll have to think about it. If we get the books, where do you see Bran's plot going? Do you think his story will end in a mystery? No, I mean, I think time traveling Bran, I go through a bit of this. I think that Bran's plot is not so different from what we saw on the show. I think there's going to be a big event of him escaping from the pit. That involves him, you know, going back in time. I think that perhaps there will be some sort of battle at Winterfell that involves him going back in time and reliving these moments. He essentially has save points. Like anytime there's a werewood where he can float and fall, he has a save point where he can send his consciousness back in time and live again. And I do think that George's original plan was for Bran to eventually, you know, be after the, you know, he breaks free and from the time cycle, that he would then want to become king. No, I mean, I think that was generally like what George's idea was. And I mean, I even thought this before Game of Thrones kind of ended. Not the time cycle stuff, but I did think that Bran, if anyone was going to sit the Iron Throne, it was going to be Bran. Just because he starts the story, you know, and it's the idea of, you know, but so I do think that ending that we saw in the show was very much like George's original plan. I'm not sure if it's currently his plan, but but I think that was definitely it. But so, you know, but it's again the Winds of Winter will involve him like escaping from the pit, and then making it to Winterfell, and maybe, you know, eventually having a battle there and escaping from that as well, and then eventually becoming king. So does no one take seriously the idea that Sweetrobin might be Littlefinger's child? Small, black hair. Aaron's, meanwhile, are supposed to be blonde. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely, you know, seen this theory and oh, how did I get on the hay? Seen this theory, and I think George like definitely popped it in there in case he wanted to do it. I don't necessarily think it fits with his themes so much with Lysa and Littlefinger. I mean, keep in mind that you know, a Clash of Kings. Is it a Clash of Kings that begins with the because then it's a really long plot. No, it's Storm. Yeah, it's just Storm. Okay, I thought maybe the plot went back to Clash of Kings, but it's just a Storm of Swords. But a Storm of Swords definitely, like, you know, begins with this idea of the mystery of what is Tansy, which George writes. I don't think it was necessarily like this big. It's kind of a failure of a plot in the grand scheme of things. I think that no one reading Storm on the first read is sitting there going, "What's Tansy? What's Tansy?" When so many other things are going on. I mean, you've got the red wedding and the purple wedding and the battle at the wall and all these other fucking things going on, and Tyrion's trial and so many exciting things going on. No one's sitting there going through that book going, what's Tansy? Like, you know, but George set up this like Catelyn Tansy plot where like, what is Tansy? Will we ever find out what Tansy is? And then we keep meeting characters named Tansy and we wonder like what the hell Tansy is. And then it turns out that Tansy is Lysa's, you know, forced abortion situation. You know, and so I think there's just too many other things going on for people to really focus on it. But George definitely wanted to make some sort of weird statement about like sexual agency and how important it is. And so like having Littlefinger be a maiden, you know, and having the roles be reversed, where like he's the one that has to marry to gain power and station, right? Usually it's the women that have to like look for the right match to marry, to get power and station, right? And Littlefinger has to do it. Lysa had to do it too. She like hated it. And Lysa is the character where we actually outline like George's beliefs about like how arranged marriages are the equivalent of rape. Like you're taking away somebody's sexual agency and forcing them to have sex with somebody that they don't want to have sex with. And so if you're having sex with somebody you don't want to have sex with, is that not rape? And so like we start this story with like, oh, Jon Arryn is this like great guy, but Jon Arryn like Lysa was forced to marry this like disgusting old man and had to have sex with this guy, and she hated it. And it was traumatic for her, and she hated her life. Her life was horrible. Now, of course, Lysa's also a piece of shit because she's a rapist. She's a literal rapist. But like, you know, so she's, you know, we got this tragic situation. So it's kind of the, you know, you end up having the whole system being screwed up. Now, Littlefinger being, I mean, Sweetrobin being Littlefinger's child, it's almost a little too much of, I would say that George definitely put the seeds in there. Don't get me wrong. But I think it goes against the themes of Lysa's life. Like, Lysa was in love with Littlefinger, and having a child with Littlefinger was her dream come true. Okay. She raped Littlefinger in order to have this happen. She had that stripped away from her, from her father. Then at the end, she's almost to her dream again, where she's married to Littlefinger and she's hoping that she's going to have another kid. She may have died pregnant. We don't know, you know. She was so close again to having her dream that Sweetrobin, unfortunately, if he were Littlefinger's son, it's too much of a gift to the sad story of Lysa, you know, and it actually like makes her, it gives her a little bit of her dream, you know, little like Sweetrobin being this embodiment of her and Littlefinger together. And so it's, I almost think like it takes away from the sad life of Lysa by throwing her that bone. Not that George didn't think about it. Like, he definitely has it as the possibility. Like, wouldn't it be ironic if Littlefinger were trying to kill his own son with poison and things like this? But I just think thematically it doesn't necessarily fit. I think thematically it's like, you know, Lysa having this shitty life and never being able to get with Littlefinger and never having a child with Littlefinger, like her dream, and never achieving her dream is like an important aspect of her sad situation. Love your stuff. Been a fan since the Pink Letter videos. How do you think Peter will react when he finds out that Catelyn is alive? That's a really interesting, weird idea. Will he ever find out? You know, will he still love her, like, you know, as an undead monster? That's a good question. I don't think I've actually even put up much thought in it. I always kind of had the idea that he was never going to find out and she was going to die, because it doesn't, you know, we kind of think about Littlefinger's plot being about Sansa now, and Sansa being a proxy, and Catelyn being now just part of the Jaime and Brienne plot, and her being this like relic of a mission, and a vow that's gone awry. You know, that you can't morally just like attach your morality horse to somebody else, you know, or, you know, you've got to come up with morality for yourself. You have to make the tough decisions yourself. And this is the problem with the Kingsguard, and this is the problem with religion, is that you're just attaching your morality train to somebody else and not thinking for yourself and not coming up with like what's right, making the hard choices. But yeah, like they should, you know, those plots are very close, and it very well could be that Littlefinger would find out. I don't know if he would, man, I'd have to think about it. It's a long, deep question. Because I think naturally and thematically, we don't think about it happening. We think about Littlefinger needing to go through a cycle with Sansa, and Brienne and Jaime needing to go through their cycle with Catelyn. But what would happen if Littlefinger like found out that Catelyn was still alive? Like, would he drop everything with Sansa and then suddenly like start following a zombie? I don't know. It's I just bought windofwinter.com. You should buy A Dream of Spring. Who knows? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so far behind on things here. Do you think they killed Rickon Stark in the show early because George R. R. Martin said he wouldn't be able to fit in with Westeros anymore when he came back? How's it apply to the books? Unicorns, cannibals. Rickon, I mean, clearly, like in the show, Rickon was a problem in that he grew up and his voice changed, and you couldn't have the kid have a speaking role and things like that. They didn't give him very much role in the first place, but bringing him back, like they needed to tie up a loose end. And so they're like, well, we need to kill him off. What's a good way to kill him off? Let's at least like piss off Jon with it, you know, or give Jon a reason to go to try to take Winterfell, because they didn't go with the fake. Well, I guess they rushed things because Sansa was there. Sansa was taking the place of Jane Poole, fake Arya, and so that was the motivation for Jon to try to take Winterfell. But then they had Sansa escape before Jon felt the need, and so they needed somebody to have Jon come down there. So, you know, there was a lot of merging and stuff. But I think the big reason that they killed him off so quick was, you know, he had puberty. But the now in the book though, with Rickon, George R. R. Martin definitely, like, again, he gardens. He doesn't really know the ending, you know, of things. You know, he hasn't really planned it out. He definitely put a lot of seeds in there that Rickon is the special one and not Bran, just in case he wants to make Rickon the special one and not Bran. I mean, I think that's kind of a funny thing. I don't know how far he's going to go with it. But he, you know, there's just a lot of situations where he says, "Oh, my brother," you know, or "I saw a wolf in the vision." Well, you know, why wouldn't that be Rickon versus Bran? You know, so I think it was something he put on the burner and then didn't think about, and then maybe later. But plot wise, I mean, if Rickon has been brought to Winterfell in order to rally the North, and Ramsay is going to win over Stannis somehow. And there are hints of that. There are hints the other way too. I'm not saying that there's not hints both ways, but Stannis is arrogant and doesn't think there's anything to fear from Ramsay, which makes us think, okay, maybe Ramsay's going to actually kill Stannis. And we do have elements that Rickon has been brought back. And I say that because of the Osha questions that Crow's Food asks Jane Poole, where he asks about who was the cook at Winterfell and who was the blacksmith, which is Mikken and Gage. And those two people, of all the people at Winterfell, are two people that are very much linked to Osha. Osha was fucking Gage, and her sword has Mikken's mark. So she knows about those two people, at least. And so, they didn't ask about anybody else. He wasn't like, what's the name of the Septon? They didn't ask Shale. They asked about Mikken and Gage, which are people Osha would know about, which makes me think that like Crow's Food has met Osha, which means Crow's Food probably has Rickon in his possession, which means he's nearby. But then we kind of see that, if things go bad for Stannis and the Northern forces and Ramsay wins, he could very well like get a hold of Rickon and execute him the same way he did in the book. Maybe not with a big arrow, shooting at 400 yards across a field, but do you think Trystane has a place in Doran's scheme? I mean, Trystane's place in Doran's scheme was Myrcella. So the very first thing that Doran does in the entire series, before we even get to the Dornish plot, the first scheme he does is he starts making a ruckus during the War of the Five Kings and calls his banners. And this freaks out the Lannisters. And so they know that they need to keep the Dornish on their side, or at minimum neutral, which in the end, that's what they got. And so that's why Myrcella gets sent to Dorne, because she's betrothed to Trystane. If there were no Trystane, it wouldn't, I guess, he could have had a betrothed to Quentyn, but Quentyn would be gone. But that was Trystane's function. Trystane's function was pretty much purely to pull Myrcella down to Dorne. And it's my crackpot belief that the reason he wanted Myrcella is that once you get Myrcella in Dorne, you can start bringing up the topic of Dornish law and how she should be queen. And if you're going to switch things to Dornish law, that would eventually actually lead to Arianna being queen, because she is the unbroken line from Nymeria. But this is my crackpot idea on that. Let's see. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about the Knights of the Vale. Literally, the second show died. Westworld season 4 is coming out. Will we get the watch episodes? We'll see if I have time. So as you know, if you know my channel, Brandon, Sweetrobin, and Chad did reviews of season 5, 6, 7, and 8 of Game of Thrones, but they also did seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Westworld. And so there's this question of whether or not they'll do Westworld season 4. Now, keep in mind, their reviews of Westworld are not at all very popular. I do think that some of my best humor is in some of those episodes, but I I still laugh at myself about the tasting toilets. But the but let me see, like the Westworld season. This is all about time. Like the watch episodes take a lot of time, and there's a lot of other things that I'd like to be doing, like the overanalyzing House of the Dragon and the fan fiction. And so it's going to premiere on June 26th. That's going to be probably 8 weeks. So that's through July, and then it would end essentially right when Game of Thrones begins, right? That'd be one. Yeah. I don't think it looks good for Westworld Watch season 4, unfortunately. Maybe if they do like 2 episodes at a time rather than like weekly. But we'll see. So Carmine has finally arrived. I know. We want to return to Uyghur World. You should read Houdini's Francis Reworking Deeper Doran series on Reddit. She had some interesting ideas about what Doran and Oberyn are planning. That's interesting. I probably will check that out. Mr. Carmine.
I got your message on Facebook so fucking late. I was like half asleep by the time you did this. But no, we can do Westworld. We can fit it in. I believe in us, Preston. I believe in us.
No, I mean, we can talk about Westworld. I'm just talking about doing my animations with and like coming up with jokes with like Brandon, Sweetrobin, and Chad. Like that's going to be doing skits and stuff. Like it's a lot of stuff. They were never that popular. The Westworld Watch videos.
You're a Game of Thrones channel doing non-Game of Thrones content. It's never gonna.
Yeah. I mean, that was it. Yeah,
that's how it is.
At the time when I did seasons 1 and 2, because I think I hadn't done it for seasons 1, and then when season 2 came, I went back and did all of season 1, and then did season 2 as it went along, and nobody like it just Westworld was not the blockbuster that they wanted it to be. But yeah, the tasting toilets was my analogy about why on earth would you create hooker dolls that had self-consciousness? Like why would you want to, if the sole function of your robot is to get people off, why would you give it consciousness so that it would be a living hell for the androids? Because that's what Westworld is. Like, you're supposed to feel bad for the androids because they're actually self-aware and are living in a living hell where they're getting killed and fucked all day long. And it's like, well, why did you give them consciousness in the first place? Like, this is like making a tasting toilet. Why do you need a toilet that can taste? Like that's just like gross and creepy. Like, if I wanted, like, why would I do that? Oh, anyway, Carmine, I thought we were going to try to get Trey on today.
Yo, can you believe this? So I message him and he goes, where is he? He's right here. He goes,
is he having sex again?
I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, I got a big interview tomorrow morning at like 8, so I'm preparing for it and then getting to bed. He learned about it like recently. So, and I said to him, a job? You're an important, popular YouTuber. That is your job. What's the matter with you? A job? You want to be a productive member of society? No. You have to be a YouTuber.
Have to be a YouTuber.
How dare you? A job. Ugh. What's the matter with you?
So, Carmine, actually, from what I know, Carmine doesn't really believe in theories in general. I have a question here. What's one theory Carmine believes that Preston doesn't? Flip the script. I mean, you believe like the big stuff. You're like, well, R plus L equals J, Frey pies, Sandor as the gravedigger, right? And that all the minor stuff, you're like, probably not.
Well, what do you don't believe in, and then we'll like list off the stuff you don't believe, and then we'll go on from there.
Well, I mean, I don't believe that Jon being Azor Ahai is a relevant plot point. I don't.
You convinced me on that. You actually convinced me on that, so we're both on that. See, I can't do this with you because you're very convincing.
No.
Go ahead.
I don't think Jon will sit the Iron Throne.
I believe that too.
Yeah.
What about R plus L equals J? Are you on that, or are you R?
I guess I guess I'm on that. I guess it's fine, but I think in the end it was like once I came around to the idea that it's more of a point of contention between Dany and Jon versus like something to unite the people. Keep in mind, for most of the fandom's history, R plus L equals J was this like final uniting thing that was going to unite Westeros against the others. And it turns out in the show, it was the reverse. It was a point of division. And not even very much of a point of division. I mean, it got Varys executed, but that's about it. So, but you know, I could see it as a point of division. Like, oh God, no, like this is not a wonderful thing that Jon is the child of Lyanna and Rhaegar. Like, it would have actually been better if you were a bastard. Like, everything would have, fewer people would have died. You know.
What else don't you believe in?
Let me
That's
think.
Like popular out there.
I mean, I would say that like I don't actually necessarily think. I think Frey Pies might be a fake out. Like, I definitely think that's the intention. That like
there it is. Frey Pies is sorry to cut you off, but Frey Pies is Manderly killing those Freys and putting them into pies and feeding them. Yeah, I think he did that.
Yeah,
I think he did that.
I think there's a good chance it's a fake out, like because it doesn't make any political sense, and it's like so obvious that I'm just like, come on. I'm trying to think of.
Oh, you think Ice and Fire? Max Mercer pointed out. You think Ice and Fire is sci-fi?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay,
I don't think George thinks there's a difference, you know, but I still do think it's a post-apocalyptic world.
I don't want it to be. I want it to be strictly fantasy, but I like fantasy, so that's just me.
So what's your explanation for Storm's End and the Wall and stuff like that?
Storm's End and the Wall are fantastical because the plot needs them to be.
Fair enough. I mean, it's true that if you go the other way, like all of those things in Lord of the Rings, that like these enormous statues and enormous like castles, like there's no way they could build those with the level of technology that they had. So it's like, you know, you just kind of accept the fantasy. I get it.
I'll take it. Why not? I'll take it. Why not? By the way, real quick, I have to ask you because your sugar daddy Josh, the guy who constantly keeps giving you super chats, he asked it. Do you have? And I said something about it. Do you have a Tesla?
No, I have a Prius.
Okay, so there's this thing in the YouTube community. Like a lot of big YouTubers feel as though the mark of making it on YouTube is only really there once you've made enough money and once you've gotten to the point where you can buy a Tesla. You know, have you heard about this? Is this?
I mean, I think that might be life in general. I think a lot of people view it as that.
So there's a YouTuber I know who does relationship advice, and he bought a Tesla a while ago, and I told him, homie, because he does a lot of breakup stuff, homie, your Tesla runs on the tears of people's failed marriages, and it does. But he makes a lot of money from just doing this type of stuff. So I'm sure yours would run on lemons.
I mean, it's funny because like being a YouTuber, like we know exactly how much we make, and we know like how much like. Essentially, we know roughly like how many views a video makes and then how much money that pulls in. And so when we see videos that are 10 times our viewer numbers, 100 times our viewer numbers, like I definitely get the idea of like, I get the notion of like, oh, what these people are pulling in. Now many of them have staffs that they have to pay and things like that. But there's some YouTubers where I'm just like like Jenny Nicholson.
I don't know who this is.
Jenny Nicholson. She's just this woman who does like very good like pop culture analyses, right? She's very funny and everything, but she clearly has no staff. It's just her, a camera and her research and her editing. She's doing everything herself. And it's like, I see her views. I see her, like, I know, like, her Patreon, I think, is $300,000 a year or something enormous like that. Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this young woman is like raking it in, like, so, that's in a different realm from like Karma and me, who have like 9 to 5s and do this in our spare time for fun,
Damn, Jenny, good shit. Good on you.
I know. Man. People are like, get Jenny on the stream. Like, Jenny's way above us. I don't think that she would bother with us.
If Jenny follows me randomly on fucking Twitter or something, and like she's a fan, I could hit her up privately. That's usually how it works. But if she doesn't,
no, she's. I mean, she's funny as hell. She's incredible. But yeah, it's a different realm. It's like, why did you get PewDiePie on? Oh, really? Why did I get PewDiePie on? The manipulation. So there are view farmers in that you can buy views in India and stuff, and definitely like get your numbers up and try to get your algorithm going. And I know a lot of people that do that, especially in their first days, to try to like make it look like their videos are really popular. Because definitely when you look at a video and you say, oh, that person's got 100 views, like, is that video really worth my time versus like this one that has 10 million views, so, don't know who Jenny is. If you want an introduction into who Jenny Nichols is, you can probably watch the needlessly thorough roast of Dear Evan Hansen, which I think is pretty damn good. But she's Wait, PewDiePie disrespected Carmine? How did that happen? There's no way PewDiePie knows you exist.
No. It's the other way around. I was a dick to him we were in a Discord server. I tried to invite you to this one, but I don't think you would enjoy it. We were in a Discord server together for like a second, and I made a joke. I made a joke that you never make the Scandinavians, because they don't fuck with these jokes about you know what I'm talking about. And I made a joke about him, and yeah, he didn't like that. And when I left, he goes, "That guy's an asshole." Like, it's my PewDiePie impression, but he did not like the joke I made. I don't think I want to say it on stream, but it wasn't a bad joke. It's just like, when there's certain. I dated a Norwegian woman, and she had Swedish and Danish jokes for days, and vice versa with the Swedes. And like, I made a joke about him being like something else, and
being like a Laplander or something.
I have no idea what that is, but
Laplander are these like people in the they're like Inuit like people that live in the north of Finland, Sweden, and Norway.
Okay.
Yeah, there's.
I made a joke like that, and I said, "Hey, Felix, aren't you from so and so?" And he goes, "No, I'm from Sweden, actually. I'm from Sweden." And I go, so I tell him, different shit, same smell. And he didn't like that, so he got very upset. I was joking with him. I was joking from him. And
I mean, that's really stupid. That's really stupid. I mean,
it was years ago.
Like, if somebody made the same joke and said like, "Oh, you're from Mexico or you're from Canada," and I was like, and they're like, "North America, same shit," I'd be like, all right, like, I'd just be like, It'd be like, it's fine, you know? But I don't know. There's some people. Some people get really upset about it. Even the terms like even these little terms like Nordic versus Scandinavian is even like a thing, right? Like
I know. Because I got the lecture from my Norwegian. Oh my God. I made the mistake of making the joke with her, and oh my God, she was making a Swedish joke, and I told her, Sweet, aren't you like aren't the Swedes and the Norwegians and the Danes, aren't you all just the same people? Aren't you all just descendant from Ragnar and Lagertha and Floki? And she got very upset. You're all just the same people, and she got upset. So
these little.
It was a joke. She doesn't like the Swedes for some reason.
It's always funny having these like little exchanges with like people that are very, very famous. You know, like I have a very brief exchange with Keanu Reeves, which you know isn't even very funny, but like it's just like, but it's like the only moment I had with him, and it's like, well, there's like, you know, so it's like that's it. Like he's not going to remember it at all. But like, you know. But yeah, once I was in college and like Keanu Reeves was on campus filming a movie, and I didn't want to. People were getting his autograph, and I didn't want to bother him, so I just like kind of inched in next to him for a picture, and he like stopped. He stopped signing the autographs and like looked over at me like, "What are you doing, dude?" And then like, and then I was like, "We're posing for a picture, Keanu." And I put my arm around him, and I got this weird picture of Keanu being like, "What are you doing?" As I like have my arm around him. It's really weird, but yeah. So your little moment with PewDiePie. Oh, man.
Years ago, I didn't even reach 100,000. Like he doesn't even remember me, and yeah, I was told when I left. He goes, "Wow, what a douche," and that was it. That was the end of it.
So when I was young, so we're going to get into some punk rock here. So for those that are into punk rock, there was a very influential band in the early 80s called Minor Threat, and the singer from Minor Threat went on to form a band called Fugazi and start a very important record label called Discord Records out of Washington, D.C. And so I went to see, when I was maybe 17, I went to see Fugazi. And when you go see Fugazi, it's a shit show of trolls like screaming Minor Threat songs like in the audience, which is hilarious, really. You know, like it's fun. So everybody's in the audience and everybody's yelling these Minor Threat songs, just because that's just what happens at a Fugazi show. It's hilarious, and so people are yelling them, but I'm kind of a loud guy, and I decide to be an asshole. And at one point, they're quiet, and the crowd is quiet at just this like perfect moment, and I scream, like, "Some guys, sometimes good guys don't wear white," which is this song by Minor Threat. And the band stops what they're doing and just like all turn to me and like stare me down. And Fee, the guy on guitar, like screams at me and he's just like, "You're a fucking asshole." And like there's this pause where the whole crowd is like, "What the fuck?" And then like we all erupt and start screaming like, "Yeah!" Like, and then Ian MacKay, he's like, "What's your name?" And I was like, "Darth." And this is before even the prequels are out. And he's like, "That explains a lot," you know. And he's like, you know, in case you guys don't know, the songs you guys are yelling for broke up 15 years ago, and it's really rude to yell those songs. It's a completely different band. And then someone yells, "Boo fucking who?" Which is another line from another Minor Threat song. And then we felt uncomfortable and left after that, because like there are also like extreme Fugazi fans who are like, you know, so. But yeah, these like random little stories. And then everybody became a troll. The internet was invented, and then everybody could just anonymously troll people. So, so that's the thing, is I do think no way Preston is that guy. I do think there was something a little different to pre-internet assholes and pre-internet trolls to like post-internet trolls and post-internet assholes. Because like back in the day when one yelled something crazy and someone was a dick, like at least you're there in person, or at least if you're at a bar with friends and you're being racy. Like I have a friend who he's a liberal guy, but whenever he's out drinking with people, he like pretends to be a right winger and like puts on well, he used to do this before 2016, but he pretended to be a right winger and start like saying the most like crazy stuff, and then like try to defend his points and like defeat people in arguments, because he like would read the 4chans, get all of their arguments, and would see if like a random liberal can like defend themselves against like 4chan trash, right? And he would do this to get a rise out of people. But like he was there, like in person, facing the person, you know? He was not some anonymous piece of shit like online, you know, that could just, you can say whatever and it doesn't matter because you're nobody, and you know, I think being like an online person hidden behind an avatar and a fake name saying something is cowardly and completely different from being an asshole to somebody in person. Now, keep in mind, like, it's ruined the culture of being an asshole. And so, like, now even my friend is just like, yeah, I couldn't do that anymore. Like, once Trump came along, like, it started becoming too real. So I couldn't pretend anymore. Yeah, so. Fred Armisen has some great fucking like really minor music stuff that's hilarious. That's so specific to like music from the 90s. What's the episode? It's Portlandia, and he gets the maid. Yeah, Amy Mann. There is this fucking hilarious Portlandia where he hires a maid, and it turns out it's Amy Mann, who is this like very niche 90s singer woman. And he hires her, and he's like, and she's, you know, she's their maid, and he's like talking to his wife, and he's like, is that Amy Mann? And they're like, yeah, I think it is. You know, and of course there's a big joke about this, that these like niche musicians that we like idolized like didn't make any money and are like still poor today, right? So like the ones that didn't sell out like didn't make any money, and so like she's a fucking like house cleaner, and so they're like, oh man, that's incredible, I can't believe we have Amy Mann, oh man. And so at one point he's like, oh, and he like sits down with her and he's like, Amy, I just have to say, like, I think like Magnolia is like one of like the greatest albums of all time, and it was so inspirational to me, and I love you, and like you're just incredible. And he's like, also, when you clean like the lounge, can you make sure that you get behind the couch, because it was a little dirty like there, and like it was the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And then she quits, and they end up hiring who, Crucify My Love, or what was her? She was from the 90s. Fuck. Crucify My. It was shit. Totally forgetting on who they hired after that. She was so big in the 90s. Oh, fuck. Oh, Tori Amos, of course. They fucking hire Tori Amos because Amy Mann quits. So it's just... all right, let's see what else we got here. What have I missed? John Con seems to be somewhat extreme to mimic Tywin. What do you think this will be? I think what John Con seems to be doing that's on the extreme of Tywin is that he is taking family members and making them hostages, and he's using those hostages to convert houses. And I think this is a big deal on how he's going to be taking houses, and especially how he's going to be taking Storm's End. However, I don't think he's necessarily going to be Tywin, but I think he wants to portray himself as Tywin. So he's going to be telling people that all of these characters are dead and murdered when they're not dead and murdered. In fact, I think he's already done this with some people. I have to go through it. If it's, I think he did it with his Connington kin. Red Rabbit. It's such a weird word. Red Ronnet. Red Robin. Red Ronnet, I think, thinks his kin are dead when they're not. And I think he's going to be doing I think he's going to be sending out messages saying that he's a much harsher person than he really is in order to try to convince people. So I think his mimicking of Tywin is going to be more of an illusion. I don't know if he's actually going to be doing the cruel things that he claims. Of all the fanfic submissions, which is your fave? So far, we're talking about for prologue. I don't have a favorite, though. There's been some cool ideas that I don't want to spoil for people, but there's definitely some things that, like, I got some really good science explanations that I'm going to be including that are pretty fantastic. And then there's some other things from the Citadel that were included that I didn't think about, and that I'm going to be trying to incorporate. I think the challenge with the prologue is that there's so many cool ideas that have been put forward that to try to fit them all in with still having a flow and having like the story in the crag. So there's just a lot. There's a lot I want to fit in. It's perhaps the problem I had with Daenerys, where I had to cram in everything. But
oh, by the way, real quick,
yeah.
This is a question for like when you're done with it, because I'm sure there's going to be so many, and I'm sure you're going to remember all your favorite ones.
Yeah.
But real quick, guys, don't message me to get your shit to Preston specifically. I'm not going to do that, because some people have been messaging me, hey man, Carmine, big fan. I've been with you since 05. Fuck off. I had a YouTube channel in 05, really. Hey Carmine, big fan, been with you from 05. Here, give Preston this Littlefinger one, all right? You can put some stuff in there if you want. Like, really, bro? Really? Stop it.
No, I mean, it's like I've read through them all, at least briefly. I'm going through them again in a more detailed fashion, but yeah, there's some good stuff. There's some good stuff.
Oh, I will say this. I will say this real quick. I'm sorry to cut you off. There have been people who have sent me some interesting art covers for your fanfic Winds of Winter. That you guys can send me. I love the artwork.
Sure, Carmine loves fan fiction or fan art. He loves fan art.
I do. I'm a huge fucking sucker for it. Preston seen me commission a couple of things. Mm-hmm. So if you guys have any ideas, send them all to me.
Like, he buys stuff just for his own like personal enjoyment. Like, he was he was like buying these things like they were NFTs, like he's just like,
that's not even wrong.
I know. Like, right. He's just like, I wanted a really cool picture of this. And so I paid this guy $100 and he drew it for me.
That's so
and I was
true.
like, okay. I was like, what are you going to use it for? And he's like, nothing. It's just really cool. And I was like,
no, I actually had an idea for like a couple of videos I want to do, but I want to get more pieces for it. And I told you, I gave you some of them.
You know what you should do? Just to like, you should just have a video of like, just where you show like the best pieces that you've bought, or even all of the pieces that you've bought and why you like them. and how cool and who the artist was and stuff. Like that would just be a cool video to just have.
I do want to do that, but I'm just so like I'm like small. I'm like so greedy with everything. I'm like I just don't want to like give it out, you know. Or show
Yeah, I
everybody,
see what you're
but-
saying. Like it's visually out there, and someone could screenshot it.
Mhm.
I mean, you could watermark a red team review over the top of all of them.
Watermark is such a douchebag move, but you're right.
or just not show them at all and die and have no one ever see them. Fine. Just to make Carmine jelly, thanks for you being PJ. Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm not jealous. I like because your boy Josh in here, Hoffman, he keeps like giving you like super chat after super chat. So I made a joke. Hey man, throw some of that my way when I do a live stream.
Well, you haven't done a live stream.
That is true. I need to get on.
When you do a live stream, I'll be the asshole calling in, and then it'll be great.
I'm gonna send you on Facebook. Hey Preston, you coming in, buddy? Let's get in here.
Yeah, I mean, you at least gonna do some live streams when House of the Dragon comes, right?
Yeah, I'll get Phil and jump in and get Glytus or Trey or whoever wants to get in. So I'm down for the pregame show. I'm down.
Yeah, I'm just you can do it too. You can do it too. On Victorian, a lot of fans assume he dies early and wins. I love your nettling a dragon with Chekhov's bacon idea. What do you think comes next? So I've thought about these 3 dragons situation, right? Like, how do you deal with the 3 dragons? Because, if there's going to be a Dance of the Dragons, you think it's going to be like Dany versus Aegon. And so those are 2 dragons fighting. What's the 3rd dragon doing during this time? Like, I don't know. And is a dragon gonna die and become, a white dragon and all of that, like in the show? And if it does, like, which dragon would it be? I don't know. But it could be a situation where like there's a Dance of the Dragons where Dany Aegon fight. Aegon's dragon dies. It somehow becomes a white dragon. She fights that one, and then if it passed like it did in the show, then they defeat the others, and then she has to fight Euron and his dragon. But I don't think Victarion's dying anytime soon. I mean, I think he's too good of a character for him to die anytime soon. Plus, like people have been saying this about Euron, and about Aeron too. Like Aeron's gonna die, or Euron. Like, well, they can't both die. Like, we need somebody to have a fucking Victarion. I mean, we need Euron's perspective on what's going on, like from somebody, So I think Victarion captures a dragon. I don't know if he's gonna ride it, but I think he's gonna capture a dragon. He's gonna bring it back to Euron, and then I don't know who's gonna be flying that dragon, but it'll be interesting. I mean, could Aeron do the dragon? That would be weird. But Victarion, it might be Victarion. Whoever tries it, who Victarion's certainly brave enough to try, so maybe. Because he wanted it to bond to him. Maybe he thinks the dragon horn worked. And then if Victarion's on the dragon, but at some point there's got to be some sort of fight. But it seems like it's going to be a 3-way fight, right? Like, you've got Ironborn probably teaming up with the Lannisters, and then you've got Aegon and most of the kingdom, and then you've got Dany and some sort of fight. But it being 3 ways makes it tough to figure out how the order of things, and if there's going to be a white dragon. Another jealous thing to Carmine. Okay. Did I get? I think I've gotten all my super chats. I don't know. Okay. Aeron will ride the Kraken. Can one ride a Kraken? He'll drown, I think. Aegon Aegon the Sixth will ride it. But this is why I'm saying, like, if Aegon gets a dragon, you'd think it would be the other one that Victarion would not bring back. Like, my idea would be that, like, Quentin would have one dragon and Victarion would have the other, and they would bring them back to their respective sides. Quentin like joining the Aegon cause because of the Ironwood connections. Will we see the Celtigar horn in Winds of Winter? In George's version, probably not. This is a fucking giving stuff away, but I have a shout out to it in the prologue, but it's not appearing, but there is a shout out. But I don't think the horn will do anything. I think he just like threw that in to kind of say like, oh, Krakens exist too, and Krakens are going to be a big deal and stuff like that. Carmine, are you a Ninja Artist fan?
I have no idea what the fuck that is. I just looked it up. Yeah, I'm. Don't look it up.
Oh.
Don't look it up. Oh God. What is
it? Is it like Berserk?
You know what? That's an interesting question. I don't know if I should even answer it.
So the answer is yes.
No, that's not. First off, not all of Berserk is like rape horse and shit like that. All of that is. That's just it's a little.
I'm just saying. I opened up the first issue of Berserk, and it's a guy fucking, and then the girl transforms into a monster.
That's akin to I have to put the video out, but that's akin to what happens in Conan the Barbarian, where Arnold Schwarzenegger's character Conan the Barbarian is having sex with that witch, and she transforms, I think, mid fucking.
Good times. That's what happens. That's happens all the time. Mid sex, people transform into monsters. Ugh. Did you ever see Creepshow 2?
No, it sounds familiar though. I feel like it was mentioned somewhere. Creepshow.
It's based on this. It's based on Stephen King short stories. And there's this story called The Raft, where these teens go out to this lake, and there's one of those rafts in the middle of the lake, and so they swim out to the raft, and then this like black blob, like straight out of the blob, like comes out and like comes underneath the raft and starts eating them. Like, so it eats, and it's based on a short story. And the movie version is not as crazy as as Stephen King's version, but in the Stephen King's version, one of the characters and this girl like fall asleep on the raft, trying not to get eaten by the blob. And you're not sure if it's like the kid's plan or whatever, but he starts having sex with her on top of the raft. And then the blob starts like eating her face. Like, and I think he like comes at the moment of realization that she's like getting eaten by this monster. And then he like dives in the water and he like makes a go for shore. And he makes it to shore and he gets out. And he's like, I beat you. And then the blob just comes out of the water and eats him. So it's like, it was not even like bound to the water. It was like, oh God. Maybe. That's the thing. I don't know. Creepshow. I saw a roach the other day and I was like, I saw the Creepshow movies when I was a little kid and they scarred me for life. So now I hate roaches and things like that. But I thought they were Stephen King stories. I think Stephen King makes an appearance in one of them. Isn't he like the guy who drinks alcohol because the moss is growing on him? Yeah. It's really nothing but Game of Thrones porn. Nothing but Game of Thrones Game of Thrones plots. Nothing but. That's it. That's all it is. Erotic stuff with like Littlefinger and Ned. He's like, I know you shouldn't have trusted me, That's it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, I actually really dislike horror in general. So somebody asked me
Really?
about Cronenberg, and like I actually like I actually am not a big fan of horror. Um, I ended up like watching a lot of it because it's like it clicks, you click on it, and then you like, oh, I want to see the end, and then you're sad when the end comes. Um, and like Cronenberg like does like the fact that they now like have classified horror into like, well, there's body horror and stuff like that, but like just gross stuff like that. It's not really too into it. I don't like, for the most part. I think horror, it's like that clip of the Twilight Zone you were talking about with me, Carmine, about how like all the episodes
It's
are
all the same episode.
horror. Like most horror tends to be that too. Like either somebody has like an eternal, like a fate worse than death, or they're killed and then something demeaning happens to their body. Um, there's some sort of body horror aspect to it or whatever. So I'm not really a big fan of horror.
Cronenberg, is Cronenberg even horror? It just seems like it's gross for the sake of being gross.
Yeah, I think it's gross for the sake of being gross. It's as they call it, body horror stuff as they call it. But he did the Fly. He did the Fly.
That's just like part of the cultural zeitgeist. I mean, sure, but then like, but Crimes of the Future, a friend of mine saw it and it's just gross for the sake of being gross.
Oh, is it? What
Yeah.
happened?
It's just something about like people eating plastic and all these like weird Shyamalan twists in it about like I zoned out. It's just it sounds like they're just being gross for the sake of being gross.
Oh gosh. So if I Google it and look at it does look, oh my god, this just looks like
And somehow he always cons Viggo Mortensen, who played Aragorn, to like get into his films. I don't know how he does this.
yeah, I mean, this is just like, I mean, why don't you just go like Human Caterpillar? Like, fucking, like, that's just gross. Okay. Ugh. Ugh.
By the way, to the person who asked, Jake Labuti, I probably fucked up his name. If you want some really good artists who've done good Game of Thrones stuff, I'm going to butcher this man's name, so I apologize to him. I think he's Italian. Paolo Pugioni. I think I said his name right. He did some stuff for World of Ice and Fire, and the ultimate artist who's ever done anything Thrones. I'm gonna butcher his name too. Magali Villeneuve. I'll put their names in the live chat for those who are interested. They're fantastic artists. Definitely check them out. I would commission them, but they would charge me like $5,000, and rightly so. They're phenomenal.
Did I miss spicy politics? This has been a very unspicy stream. We have not discussed anything spicy today.
If anything, we need to discuss. We were supposed to do it with Trey, but I fucking forgot the cancellation of Raised by Wolves.
Oh yeah. Oh fuck! I totally forgot about some of the shows. Like, so besides Raised by Wolves, which we talked a little bit earlier at the very very beginning of the stream about Raised by Wolves being canceled, but I wanted to talk to you about Ms. Marvel.
Here we fucking go. Here we go. So ready now.
Yeah. So I've been joking with Carmine about Ms. Marvel, because Ms. Marvel, it's this show about this high school girl. So he's like, he was like, I don't know if it's really a show for me. And I'm like, but it's a show about you. It's about a girl, a first generation immigrant in northern Jersey who like, it's so I'd figure there'd be like some interesting stuff that you would like latch onto.
Okay,
like,
Miss Marvel is not a story about me because first off, I'm Brazilian. Brazilians for the most part are Catholic. That's number one. Number two, She was born in the United States. Her parents were not. If anything, I have more in common with her parents. And and I did live in North Jersey for a long period of time, yes. But that's it. The fact that we live in North Jersey is the only thing I have in common with Miss Marvel. In fact, not to be a jerk, but you have more in common with Homelander than anybody. You're both tall, good-looking white guys who are blonde. Are you blonde?
Sure. I mean, the point of Homelander is he's supposed to be like a typical like cis American man, right? Blonde American man, right? Isn't that the whole thing?
Yeah, but the only thing you have more in common with Homelander, which is that you're a white guy and you're American, and that's all.
But I mean, right? But I'm supposed to connect with Homelander, or I'm supposed to like understand that Homelander is the dark side of myself, you know. So anyway, I watched Ms. Marvel. My wife actually liked it. She identified a lot with the character. But man, I couldn't believe that like Ms. Marvel out of nowhere is like the most brilliantly directed fucking like insane piece of work. Like I couldn't believe it. Like I was like, what? The amount of time that they are spending on this shot and the animation there. And oh my gosh, it was the story is whatever. You know, it's a typical like, you know, high school girl feeling like she's not fitting in and disagreeing with her parents about like going to a party. But like every shot being this like crazy, like Edgar Wright, like Quentin Tarantino, like angle. It was so out of the ordinary. I could not believe how much time was spent on those shots.
No, Miss Marvel looks very good. It's kind of annoying how Miss Marvel looks so good, and yet Star Wars kind of has like these weird dumbass shots that were done by some random person in their basement. It looked like it's just
yeah.
But no, Miss Marvel is cool. It's just that Miss Marvel, I can tell that it's not to quote Brie Larson, it wasn't made for the guys in the 18 to 35 demographic, which is fine,
Yeah,
but I'm glad
it's a show for girls. You know, it is a show for girls. Or at least younger high school kids. It's definitely like targeted that, which is fine. The actress herself was a huge Ms. Marvel fan, and like being Pakistani American, she was like, oh my gosh, there's actually a Pakistani American like female superhero. And so she started reading her and then tried out, and they were like, this girl's really excited about the role, and so they gave it to her. But I was just so surprised about how much time they like just visually how it looked so much better than the other series. I mean, though I have to admit, Moon Knight was directed very, very well. Very, very well.
Yeah, what's up with Marvel looking better than some of the Star Wars shows? I think it's because everything Star Wars, they're just putting so much emphasis on Mando. That's like their main project. Everything else is just, give them scraps.
So I think I have figured it out. So Ms. Marvel and Moon Knight, the reason they look so crazy is that they hired foreign directors, or at least immigrant directors, who have a lot of influence from foreign cinema. And a lot of foreign cinema has gone into these kind of like extreme shots and stuff. So like everybody's been talking about RRR these days. And so like if you're going to have like, I think, what's the guy's name? Bilal Falah is his name. And let's see. Oh, he actually is from Belgium. But he must have Bilal Falah, he must have like a he directed Bad Boys for Life? Jesus. Okay. Oh, he's of Moroccan descent. Yeah, Belgian and Moroccan, and then obviously the director from for Moon Knight was Egyptian. So you're just gonna have a different perspective on movies, things that perhaps we're not used to. But there's a lot of like this extreme filming kind of stuff. Um, so it's some interesting stuff. But yeah, I mentioned RRR just because like it's so over the top and like that kind of like it's not. I don't even want to say it's that different from Michael Bay. Like it's a lot of Michael Bay ish stuff, and where every scene is epic, which I think can be an onslaught, But I think if done sparingly, or at least not quite to the extreme of Michael Bay, like I think it can make stuff interesting. But yeah. You're like Kenobi is incredibly mediocre that it hurts. It's sad. It's very sad.
It is like, come on, man. And look, they're really putting a lot of the emphasis into Mando. Mando's their main thing. I think Disney is forcing Filoni and Jon Favreau to do all this like random stuff. The funny thing is, I don't know if you know this, the actor for Boba Fett and Django, fuck, I forgot the man's name, the New Zealander guy. He came out and said that we have to get another Boba Fett show showing Boba Fett at the peak of his badassery. So, which means he agrees that Book of Boba Fett was just kind of lame. Because
yeah. I mean, I think there's probably gonna be a correction. I think the same thing happened with Mando, right? There were things. Mando started out kind of slow, and everybody's like, "Where's the fucking lore?" And then they corrected, and second season was fucking lore up your ass, And so I think with Boba Fett, it's like first season is something, and everybody's like, "Where's badass Boba Fett?" And second season is probably going to be like over the top badass Boba Fett.
I don't think I want a second season. If they do another Boba Fett thing, they have to do the best thing we could do at this point: anthology, tales from the original trilogy. I want to see badass Boba Fett. I want to see Obi-Wan as the general in the Clone Wars. Oh, they're wasting, by the way, Hayden Christensen. They so are.
I mean, 4 episodes in, where is the guy? Where is the guy? I mean, this is, like you say, it's another guy who can act. When given the chance, like I think Hayden Christensen is a great actor. It's just, give him some roles.
Real quick, someone said, someone was saying in the live chat, because I mentioned Homelander. Someone was saying how Homelander is not racist. He wasn't, and now he kind of is, which is weird because you mentioned how this season there's a lot of political stuff, and at first I was like, really, where? And then because I don't pay attention to the political shit, and then in the most recent episode they invite the Hispanic superhero to the tower, and for some they start having the taco bowls, and then Homelander says the same thing Trump said. Trump actually said we have the best taco bowls in Trump Tower, and I can't believe they picked it word for word. Okay.
I mean, Homelander being Trump this season is a little. It's pretty heavy-handed. I mean, this whole like it being a surprise that when you act like a dick that everyone will like you, like how Trump turned politics on its head. That like it used to be that everyone would try to control all of the little leaks that made politicians seem like dicks, and now politicians want to be dicks because people are craving dickish politicians, and so they're just doing that with Homelander. But yeah, explaining Homelander's like beliefs, because he's clearly not into the Nazi thing, because Homelander just wants acceptance. Like if nothing but black people liked Homelander would like black people, he's like so craving acceptance, right? But this is the whole Trump thing too, right? Trump was like never got love from his dad, and so he just so wants acceptance, and so that's just kind of like the idea that he just wants to be loved, and he's got this like group of fans that like love him, that he cares about ratings and things like that desperately, and not about like actually making people's lives better. I mean, they're definitely making that connection. I just, I don't know, like what statement they're gonna, like what they're doing with it. Like, Like, how do you stop people like Trump? Trump is a problem. So how do you stop him? Well, we take drugs that make us temporarily Trump so that we can kill him. Like, I don't know what the message is.
They can't kill off Homelander. He's the whole show.
Well, not until the very end. And it's like I say, like earlier, I was like, why is AOC in the show? Like, why is Nadia AOC? Like, what statement are you making about AOC or Democrats? Like
that she and Homelander are both owned by the same like
they're all owned by the same people. That Democrats are all
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I guess, but like I say, it's very like South Park bashing both sides for the sake of bashing both sides with like no clear solution. Like, what's the solution then? Like, destroy all the corporations and the world will become better, you know? I guess is that what they're saying? They're just being anti-corporatist, which while being a fucking show on Amazon Prime, like what? Like being a product of Amazon?
I guess the because I don't want to spoil episode 4 for people who haven't seen it. You saw episode 4, right?
No, I just saw the first 3.
You saw the first? You haven't seen episode 4 yet? Oh,
no,
dude, you gotta watch episode 4. Watch episode because I won't spoil it then because there is. It almost seems like they are giving us their version of what they think the solution would be. I don't want to spoil it for you, but the solution is kind of interesting. Wait. I think I might have spoiled it for you with the taco thing. Never mind.
You spoiled it. I guess you spoiled the taco joke.
The taco joke, yeah, because whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I hope there's some thought into it. Like I said, it's already. Look, I think the Boys is a pretty good show. It's infinitely better than the comic book, which was trash. Though the one thing about the comic book, and I guess it's okay to spoil the ending of the comic book because it seems like they're going a completely different route. Because in the show, they've now shown the origin of Black Noir, and he's completely different, completely utterly different than what Black Noir was in the comic book. So in the comic book, Black Noir is a Homelander clone. And he's kept around just as the kill switch to kill Homelander. And in fact, Homelander, it's revealed in the comic book, is not nearly as crazy and cruel as he thinks he is, because all of the evil things that he's been doing that they have pictures of is actually Black Noir the entire time. And that like Homelander is driven insane by the fact that he was getting sent pictures of himself doing evil stuff, making him think he was evil. And so in the end, Black Noir is the one that kills Homelander. You know. And I forget how they, then kill Black Noir, but it's
Is peanut allergy?
Yeah, I guess.
Does he have a peanut allergy?
But now that Black Noir though is clearly not Homelander now, like it's a completely different story. So, but that was the one aspect I did think that ending was a kind of clever ending. Like you've kept this character, you've kept this ace up your sleeve the entire show, of the entire series. Like who is Black Noir? Who is Black Noir? And then you reveal it, and it's like, okay, that's a pretty cool reveal. And but they did that. They're not doing that. They're not doing that in the show at all.
Well, based off what you have seen, I think Butcher's Homelander contingency plan is Baron Trump, Homelander's son, who is the only person that could stop Homelander. I guess that's the contingency plan.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah. Okay. So just take the role from Black Noir and give it to the son.
I guess. Maybe that's his contingency plan, unless they're gonna kill this kid. Oh my god.
Yeah. All right. All right. Some quick. I got to get to some super chats here. All right. Can of worms. I know. Can you explain to my obsequious, daft, conservative roommate that inflation is driven by the Fed's monetary policy, fiat currency, and capital markets, not the president? Well, yeah. That's. I mean, these weird things like. So, inflation is literally like a money supply, right? And like what could like increase your money supply, but it's also and this is something discovered and talked about in the past 20 years among the behavioral economists, something that's created by psychology, in the same sense that like the price of Bitcoin will go up and down based on human speculation of bubbles. Like people think that the same thing with inflation, because there wasn't inflation for so many years, and despite the fact that so many things should have been driving it. Now, how the president relates to things, it's just like I don't know. Like they don't like. As I said, the Fed is fairly independent from the president. They raise and lower interest rates like on their own, and all of the other things that cause inflation in the world, like people's psychology or banks and things like that. Fiat currencies, capital markets, very complicated stuff that PhD economists don't fully understand. It has nothing to do with the president. That's all separated from the president. This is a guy who is the oversees the executive branch and signs bills into law and picks Supreme Court justices. Like this is his, and is the commander in chief of our armed forces. Like that's his job. I don't see how he could control inflation, and if he could, why wouldn't he try to keep it down? Like no one understands inflation. If they did, they'd win a Nobel Prize. And if it were Biden's fault, why is there inflation in every single country in the world right now? Like it's a global phenomenon. So it's tough. Like how do you explain European inflation if it's all Biden's fault? Now, in red states they have these stickers that they're popping on gas pumps where it just says Biden did that, and they like point an arrow to the price, to try to blame him for something. Like it's very as they say, post hoc ergo propter hoc. Like just because something happens after something else doesn't mean like there's a causation. Like inflation happened after The Boys came out as a series, for example. Can we blame The Boys? I don't think so. I mean, what you can probably do is blame COVID. So, because it has to do with like, products and things getting, supply chains shipping and people being unable to get products and stuff like that. So it's probably all COVID related, like why we have inflation right now. Glidus's A Rain Waters series. Carmine, have you watched Glidus's A Rain Waters series or video at least? Carmine's gone. Let's see here. What did how long is this?
Everyone loves
it's 15 minutes. It's a little too long. I have not seen Glidus's A Rain Waters video. I've seen his Sweetrobin one. I've seen all of his piss takes. I've seen his Preston Jacobs video. I've seen his Smash It or Pass It video. Let's see. Have you heard Jimmy Carter's Crisis of Confidence speech? It's weird how it resonates 43 years later. Carter's a very underrated president. I do think that Carter was kind of underrated. He's blamed for inflation and the hostage crisis, were both of which are not really his fault. And that's really the reason he lost. But he was a really, really fucking smart guy. Though there's some interesting aspects about like how presidents rule and how they run their cabinet. So like they JFK kind of had this Camelot model where they kind of all sat around a table. So we got these great minds and they all sat around a table, like supposedly, talking things out. But the problem is that RFK was at the table. And RFK was a very bold character. And JFK was going to believe his brother and going to take his brother's opinion over anybody else. So a lot of people think that actually like JFK's rule was mostly about RFK's like influence. And so when JFK died and Johnson came in, Johnson was more of a delegator and delegating things to the right people. Though he was also this like really big bully. Like he was really good at just like going in and convincing people to like vote for things he wanted. So this is why he got the Civil Rights Act passed. I would say that Lyndon Johnson domestically may be the best president. Foreign policy wise, no, but domestically, I think Lyndon Johnson might be the best president. Nixon was more of a like do it. Him and his Secretary of State just kind of Kissinger like just kind of ran everything themselves and didn't talk to anybody else. So like it was a really weird time because they didn't like the idea of having an influencer like RFK like changing their minds on things. And then Ford kind of had this brief presidency, and then when Jimmy Carter came in, he kind of like understood the problems. Like he wanted the benefit of having the Camelot model, but he didn't want like an RFK person influencing him. But he didn't want to be ruling everything himself like Nixon and Kissinger did, and not sharing information. So he would ask his cabinet to send him very detailed reports of everything they believed, and he would read through all of the reports over and over and over and try to figure out what to do. So he was a big thinker. He was like, read, think, make decision. Reagan was a big delegator. He didn't do anything himself. He delegated everything. Bush 1 was also a delegator. And then Clinton was probably the most successful Camelot model, where he brought in these experts and they all kind of had like sat around the table thinking about things. And then Bush 2 was again about like the small group where it was like Cheney and Wolfowitz and these like ruling everything and not listening to anybody else. And then Obama was a delegator. And I'm trying to think what Trump's model is, everybody being incompetent and no one knowing anything. So there's something like that. Like, oh, wow.
Can I challenge you on that real quick, if you don't
Sure.
mind? Name one thing Trump did that you like.
He gave paternity leave to federal employees. He gave maternity leave and paternity leave to federal employees.
Aren't you a federal employee?
Yeah, it's fucking great. Gonna take advantage of that very soon. No, that was really good. Let me think. Anything else? I mean, you have to try to think of much else. Like I can even name more stuff under Bush 2 that I liked. Like Bush 2's PEPFAR stuff was really incredible. Like his AIDS relief for Africa. But Trump, no, he really screwed up everything. I cannot think of something he did well besides giving
Before COVID, wasn't the economy pretty good, or was that just continuing from Obama?
I mean, economy is going to be good when the economy is going to be good. Like the president doesn't really have that much effect on the economy, but it was also like the economy was booming during Obama. It was booming during Trump. And then it crashed under Trump because of COVID. And you could probably say that Trump's, it probably still crash, but probably not crash as hard. Like just because he did not prepare for COVID at all. He was in complete denial for months and months and months that there was anything wrong. Like just gave people like this, like, nope, tomorrow we're going to have no cases. You're like, okay, out of nowhere.
Yeah, a lot of my right-wing friends like normal right wing who focus on policy, not cultural war shit, they want to give Trump credit for Operation Warp Speed, but at the same time, he did like kind of just brush it off a lot of the time, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Operation Warp Speed is kind of like a no-brainer. Like, like gonna give some millions to some drug companies and pre-order some vaccinations. In the end, I mean, what Operation Warp Speed helped with, what was it? It's one or the other. It's Pfizer took money, but Moderna did not. So it doesn't really matter in the end that Operation Warp Speed happened, but it was fine. I'm all fine. Like Operation Warp Speed was great. Was a good decision, but I don't think it was a difficult decision. It's like saying like, not defaulting on our debt is a good decision. Well, yeah, but that's kind of like a no-brainer. Like you want something like new and outside the box that like came from nowhere. In fact, when I bring up the maternity paternity leave, a lot of people say like he just signed the bill. Like it originally was like put forward under Obama. And I was like, oh, okay. like it just took that long of a time to get everything like written and prepared. Like, oh, okay. Like he just signed
what about
it into
Space
law.
Force? Space Force, huh? That was cool.
So they've been talking about Space Force for a while, but I don't think that Space Force is necessarily anything. I mean, but they've been talking about Space Force for a while. There's actually two ways of thinking about management in the U.S. military, and that is one. Some people think that like for something as specialized as space, which is a completely different type of warfare, that we need a specialized division because asymmetrical warfare about things like if you're talking about like a missile going up and blowing up a satellite, like or there's even talk of having a separate force for cyber, that there should be a cyber division of the armed forces, because that's the future of warfare, cyber attacks. So Space Force, like there's definitely some very unique problems with space, and that a Space Force would be focused on. So the advantages of if you break them off into their own thing, they won't be distracted by other stuff and they'll focus on this problem. And so that's the advantage of Space Force. But other people argue that we have a lot of useless overhead when it comes to the military. Like, why do we need, like, if you're going to have the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard, and the Space Force, that means you need to have middle management for all of these different groups. You need to have different human resources. You need to have like different leadership. Like all of you all of a sudden have all of these extra like roles that you didn't need before. And so it's actually very expensive and wasteful to have several branches of the military when you could just have one, So that's but of course they like to have several so that military people can get promoted and there can be plenty of positions, so it's a waste of money really to have like multiple branches of the military. If you just had one branch of the military, you wouldn't need all of these positions. You could save millions, billions of dollars by not having that. But yeah, well,
he did say one thing that was in hindsight true. He did tell European leaders that they needed to wean off Russian gas. He said this years ago, which in hindsight, yeah, it's true.
Broken clock. I mean, he also tried to destroy fucking NATO and cozy up with Putin and literally blackmailed Ukraine. Was trying to blackmail Ukraine, holding off weaponry, so that they would investigate Hunter Biden. So it was pretty shitty. Pretty shitty. Let's see. Last stream you said I was a hostage. Can you elaborate? I don't know about that. The last stream I talked about people having guns to my face. I don't think I've been. Oh, maybe you were talking about I was talking about Jordanians, like having Jordanians invite you over for dinner and it being like somewhat like a hostage situation. But this is very, when we're talking about being a literal hostage. No, I've never been a literal hostage, like where the threat of death is upon me. No. From outside the United States, every U.S. president looks the same as Trump. He was openly racist, but had the courtesy of not invading any country. I mean, I guess to somebody from the outside, but that's the thing about foreign policy is an incredibly small sliver of like what the U.S. government does. 99.9% of the, I mean, I guess invading countries is kind of a big deal, but like vast majority of what the U.S. government does is for the benefit of Americans. So essentially a foreigner's perspective on the president is kind of useless. Like who cares like if they like the president or not? The president's job is about running a government that serves U.S. citizens, right? So in a sense, it doesn't really matter what a foreigner thinks of the American president. I mean, I granted, like people talk about, oh, it's really nice to build, relationships and allies when it comes to foreign policy. And that's all true. And Trump fucked up in that respect. While, someone like, Clinton, Bill Clinton was very, very good at that, but and Obama was certainly much better than Trump. But it's like from the outside's perspective, it's like, well, who cares? It's like saying like, okay, say you're divorced and you have a second wife, and then somebody's like, well, from an outside perspective, your second wife seems like the same as your first wife. You'd be like, how do you fucking know? Like, you're not fucking married to the person. Like, you don't see jack shit. Like, so it's what it's like. It's all about what they do in our relationship as American citizens to the president, because most of what he does is domestic. Foreign policy, Europeans are into foreign policy, but most of the world, including America, doesn't care about foreign policy. We do not care. We do not care. I mean, I care, but it's kind of my job. I cared before that, but like, that's the thing. The boy's creator, he hates superheroes and always has. I'm a bit tired of the cynical take on superheroes. He's a good writer, but I like the brighter take for the escape and a bit of hope, I kind of agree. I really fucking miss like Superman, like Christopher Reeve's Superman. We get a little bit of that with Captain America. I really do love that, like, Captain America is just a fucking good guy, and can't we just have that? Can't we just have a fucking good guy who he makes hard decisions, but he makes the right decision, like it doesn't have to, everything doesn't have to be cut and dry and like, and easy, like, maniacal villains like Lex Luthor. But, it's nice to have, an actual like good guy that you can root for and know, like, I want him to succeed because he's great. He's a good guy. And, so yeah, that's why I like Captain America and I like Christopher Reeve's Superman. Do you miss that, Carmine?
I do actually. But at the same time, I also kind of like the realism of the this new genre of The Boys, because it's called Invincible and The Boys. It's like this new genre. I don't know if this is official, but I saw someone say it, so I'm going to refer to it as such. It's called Cape and Chaos, which I really do like. But yeah, I kind of miss the days when Spider-Man would go and there would be someone robbing a bank and he would stop him and that would be the end of it. And now it's like the bank robber is like secretly his father, and his father abandoned him and is somehow involved with the president.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
almost
it's like this interlocking
Invincible's
plots.
almost the best of both worlds, right? Like, because like we're supposed to like, I mean, and who knows as Invincible goes? I'm not sure what's going to happen to the character, but our protagonist, we at least like our protagonist in Invincible. And I guess
yes, Invincible had moments where it had that, where Mark would come in and defeat the bad guy, and that would be it.
Yeah, and they've made Huey into a better person than he was in the comic.
Watch episode 4.
Oh shit. Okay. Fuck.
Watch
Fuck. They've ruined Huey.
No. They give him a more interesting character arc this season. Watch episode 4.
Yeah. Okay. What's my take on Biden's presidency so far? How does he stack up against previous Democrat presidents? The president, he's limited by what he can do with his like majorities. And so for what Biden has like been handed, like what do I expect from him, right? Like, let's see. He ended the war in Afghanistan. He got vaccines out to everyone and promoted the idea that we all need vaccines. He passed COVID aid and got everyone money in their pockets to get us through COVID. He put a liberal on the Supreme Court. Like what did people expect? Like they say, oh, he didn't get his infrastructure package passed. Well, you can fucking blame Joe Manchin. Like he would have signed that bill had it come through. Like I don't. He's doing everything great that I would want. Like I don't know what people would want. They want him to have some sort of special magic power to be able to do something out of his role as president. And the problem is Democrats follow the rules as well. But like what does one expect from the guy? Like he's doing everything he can. I don't know any like big fuck ups that he's done. I don't know anything that I really disagree with that he's done. Like what are we gonna? He's fine, It's like when I go to McDonald's and I order a Big Mac meal, and then someone gives me a pile of shit, and then I'm like, no, I wanted a fucking Big Mac meal, and they're like, fine, okay, get rid of this pile of shit, and they give me a Big Mac meal, and it's a Big Mac meal. All right, I got my fucking Big Mac meal. And then people are like, well, it's fucking not a 4-star restaurant. Have your fucking expectations reeled in. Like he's doing everything he can in the situation. I don't think there's anything, I don't have anything bad to say about Biden. It's good. He's a good man.
I don't know. I almost don't know anybody. I almost don't know the name of anybody in his administration, which is a sign that's good. If I know the names of everyone in your fucking administration, that's not a good sign.
Right, like scandal-wise? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like Buttigieg is Department of Transportation but I mean, I know many of them because it's my job. But like, the Secretary of State, for hasn't done anything crazy. But so this is an interesting question. Was Nixon good at foreign policy? Now, this is the Nixon was a horrible piece of shit. Not as bad as Trump, but he was a horrible piece of shit. Don't get me wrong. Horrible piece of shit that interfered in elections and should have been impeached. And however, like was he good at foreign policy? Weirdly, even though he knew nothing about China, and him and Kissinger went to China, and they didn't bring any experts, and they had no background. That like him and his opening up of China went about as well as it could have, and it was just kind of like, I don't know if it was just lucky or smart people are gonna have things happen. So he was okay. I mean, I think a lot of people wish he would have gotten out of Vietnam faster, which was a thing at the time. He slow rolled it getting out of Vietnam. So I think people give him props for opening up China, but I think they don't like his slow roll of leaving Vietnam, because he was still trying to please the Republicans at the time. I expect student loan debt forgiveness. He's forgiven a lot. He's delayed the payments on it for a while, and he forgave all of that student loan forgiveness for that scam university thing that somehow was billions of dollars. Jesus Christ! But I don't think anybody's paid any student loan yet under Biden. So, considering that inflation is happening, like that's free. You're getting free money, right? Because like that debt becomes smaller and smaller as you don't have to pay the interest payments and the inflation goes away, and the inflation just inflates it away. So in a sense, there's a lot of student debt happening. It's a lot of forgiveness happening, but like I say, it's happening slowly. But like I'm trying to think, like having not paid the interest and on student debt in 2 years, like, and then having the inflation happen on it, you can calculate out that you've probably saved hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars on the student loan debt. But I understand that people don't think about it that way. But like, yeah, like if I borrow $100 from somebody, and then I wait 10 years and I pay them back $100, I'm not really paying them back $100. I'm paying them back $80. And so it's like I've made money by delaying, so I've essentially had debt forgiveness. That's the idea. Is that your cat, dude?
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry about her. She just wants cuddles.
His immigration policy sucks. What specifically is going on with the immigration policy that don't the thing is, this is very abstract. Like, I used to work for Homeland Security, so I know a fair bit about like U.S. immigration policy, like a fair bit. So I'd like to hear like what specifically you think Biden is not doing. Can't keep up. I can't keep up. I can't keep up. Out of step with the world. Yes, Henry Kissinger was an evil genius murderer. I agree. Biden was all right, a really boring shit lib. Like what is a shit lib? Like what's so bad about being a shit lib? Like being like what exactly like is wrong with being a liberal? And like conservatives have a very clear criticism of like liberalism, because like conservatives, they want to ban abortion, and they're racist. So like liberals like look, and they hate social programs. So like liberals like look horrible. But like when it's like the far left attacking liberals, it's always something much more abstract. It's always like using these terms that don't really mean anything, like you fucking corporatist, like neoliberal shill. And you're like, what does that mean? Like you're against corporations? Like you're against human beings, like coming together to like have a company? Like you're against free trade? Do you not like your guacamole at Chipotle? Because do you not like your smartphones and all these sorts of things? Like, I would love like some very specific policy oriented things that liberals could do to please the far left, rather than just not being neoliberal corporatist shills. Like, I don't know, like what specifically, like what laws can be passed to make you happy. Like, give me a policy that can be passed to make you happy, and we can talk about that. So it's just that's what I'm curious about. Yeah, the interest has been frozen. So you're getting forgiveness. You're getting a lot of forgiveness just through in inflation. So if inflation is 5% a year, you're getting 5% of your debt forgiveness every year. That's the thing is there are some really great aspects to inflation. Like inflation makes people go out and buy things. Inflation and not hold money and not hoard wealth. If you've got a lot of debt, that debt disappears. There are good aspects of inflation. It's just bad for people. Like people don't like it because it's bad for their personal savings. That's the 10,000K means 10,000K. No, that's not how money works. Like, unfortunately, 10,000K does not mean 10,000K when it comes to inflation. Like, this is the whole thing. There's these things called interest and inflation. So, there are aspects of my job that are, but I can't. But in general, I just do not talk about the policy of my job. So, that's just not something I do. Do not want to get in trouble. I do not represent the government. Like, that's, people get in trouble. There are all sorts of crazy people that are that don't think, and that are like, well, as a representative of the Department of Defense, I believe, and you're like, dude, well, I'm not fucking going to do that. I'm not going to talk about what I do, or that. The far left or American left who are centrist by the world's country standards. Yeah, probably. It all depends. Keep in mind that the Middle East is far right fascists, and Europe is liberal, but a lot of the world is very conservative fascist. So, is America really conservative on the grand scheme of things? On some issues we're very liberal. My friend insists that liberals are paid to lose. Actually, I don't necessarily agree, but it's hard to argue. I don't think they're paid to lose, but I think that I think they play by the rules, and they've got a different base that they're playing to. They're playing to a very diverse base, and it's tough to please them all. While conservatives play to a more monolithic base. You've got 3 people to please with conservatives: selfish pricks, fucking assholes, and religious freaks. And while leftists, we've got so many people. We've got to pay attention to all these tiny little religious minorities and socialists and communists and capitalists who like liberal social policies of being pro-choice, and they're pleasing lawyers. Lawyers are big liberals, and all sorts of suburban moms and all sorts of different things that maybe have socially conservative feelings, but are play with the idea of being socially liberal on things once they sit down and think about it. It's a very nuanced, difficult position to be on the left, because we think about things, we have thought, while the right just goes forward. Pass Medicare for all. Well, I'll tell you this. At some point, first of all, Biden could never do that because he's only got 50 senators in the Senate. But keep in mind that Obama had a supermajority. He had 60. They could break. So you need, because of filibustering, you need 60 votes in the Senate. And Obama had 60 votes. He had a supermajority. And so he came forward with Obamacare, which, in its earlier iterations was more generous and better. And then he wanted, you know, there were a few Democrats who were like Joe Manchin, you know, and they're like, oh, we need bipartisan support. And so he went and he listened to the Republicans, and they're like, well, if you guys were doing this, what would you do? And the Republicans put all of these ideas forward, and they included them into Obamacare and then the Republicans didn't vote for it anyway. But nonetheless, it squeaked by because Obama was pretending to be, you know, bipartisan and all of this, or tried to be bipartisan, and they watered down the bill and everything. And it's like, look, I'd love Medicare for all. I would. But with 60 senators and all of the power, Obama squeaked by Obamacare. And so the idea that like Biden could somehow pass Medicare for all, not going to happen. Like, not going to happen. And expecting that of him is ridiculous. Bill Clinton, you know, tried to push like healthcare as well during his early term when he had the majorities, and he failed. He failed with his own party because they're, you know, people have weird beliefs about healthcare, and like the public has weird beliefs about healthcare, and so it's yeah, it's. I mean, I want it. But he just doesn't have the votes. Like when people are like, oh, Democrats, all they say is like vote harder and try to put more of them in. Yeah, because when you have more of us in, we can do stuff. But like when you have like by the skin of our teeth majority, and everybody's like, oh, they're not doing anything. Like, give us a fucking break. Like what can he do? Like, can Biden attack monopolies? So, how does the U.S. government break up monopolies? They can they have to go through a legal process of it. Yeah, I mean, I see why. Like, look, I think that there's far too many, whether it be monopolies or duopolies or oligopolies or whatever, like small. I think there's too few companies like running things. I do, and I definitely think the government should be acting on this. However, like if you're gonna like take the lone position, you're gonna be the one guy who wants to break up Facebook. And then take legal action. And then, you know, would they even win? Like, would Facebook prove that they're not a monopoly because other businesses exist in the end? And meanwhile, you like, you know, trash all of these employees and all of these companies that have money, and it's a risky move. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like, yeah, I would love some better talk of breaking up monopolies. If you get the whole government to do it too, like work together bipartisanly. But it's you know, but yeah, that'd be putting a big target on him. That'd be, yeah, I could see that though. Can't inflation get out of hand? Yeah, of course. Inflation gets out of hand all the time. You know, you get these situations where people, you know, are wheelbarrowing money to the store and their life savings are gone and things like that. But you know, like I say, like a little bit of inflation, as I say, a little bit of inflation is very good. A lot of inflation is bad. So, absolute transparency for political donations. We actually we do have this in America. We do have transparency for political donations. You can go to opensecrets.org and you can look at how much everybody has donated to everyone in America. This already exists. Now, I think what people are more concerned with is capping the amounts. Like we have a listing of like what who the corporations give money to, like everybody donating. Like this is all online. This is public information in America. Like this is already existing. Now, and I don't know any anonymous donors. Like, now, what people disagree with is that like is that there was a cap of $2,000 for political donations. That a lot of that, but then they started inventing these super PACs, and you could donate to a super PAC and the candidate at the same time, and then double, triple, quadruple the amount of money that you're giving. Yeah, I've seen the video. I've seen videos on me. Who doesn't Google themselves or search for themselves? I would agree with this statement. Liberals are the status quo manager, minimal change around the edges, where conservatives want to go backwards. I mean, I would say that. I would agree with that. But it's almost like it's all we can do when there's so many forces trying to send us backwards. Like the only thing you can do is to try to like maintain the status quo as the like minimum, like, it's like if zombies are attacking your house and you're trying to fend off the zombies, you're not worrying about like redoing your kitchen, like, yeah, that kitchen needs to be redone, but fucking zombies are attacking the house. So it's tough. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody's for Medicare. Everybody likes Medicare for all, but where are we? Well, we got just a few minutes left, and then I got to get going because I've been doing this I'm losing my voice 3 hours. Make enemies, at least hit Amazon. But for what? Like it's like fight the battles you can win, Like I get it. Like, Amazon owns too much, and we get that feeling, right? But like legally speaking, are they a monopoly at this point? You have to look at like Amazon market share, because we had a tough time. So Amazon's market share is 56%. Let me see what Ma Bell's market share was when they broke up Ma Bell. So Ma Bell market. Because this is the big thing, is can you legally go forward and try to break a monopoly up when they're only at 50%? Like at what point does it start being a monopoly? Like 70, 80? Like I get it, monopolies are bad, having these big companies are bad, but and then you have to say like, well, what's the bad effect? Like is Amazon price gouging us yet? Because actually right now Amazon is probably providing really good prices. Everything's cheaper as ever, right? Like monopoly, usually abuse of monopoly comes from price gouging. Yeah, absolutely, 56.7%. But is that a monopoly? A monopoly is supposed to be 100%. Granted, and you start seeing the negative effects of a monopoly. So like, is Amazon abusing us right now? Like I understand, Amazon is abusing its workers, but they could abuse their workers if they weren't a monopoly. But like, what's the price gouging? I would see it more with like the price gouging I'm seeing more on the oil companies. Like they're the ones that have the price gouging. Now Google is a more obvious one, 90%. They could definitely get some sort of act against them. But then like I would have to go to like most of us are not actually the consumers of Google. Like we're not selling our advertisement to them. I would have to see like what Google charges people, because I think to get yourself broken up, you have to prove, like you have to show that one, you're a monopoly, and two, that there's abuse, and that there would be a superior world that came out of this. Like I get it that we all get this like weird creepy idea that Amazon is owning everything, but what's the actual like negative effect like on the ground of Amazon owning everything at this point? Like, are packages like, are they charging $20 for a shipment? No, they yeah, I mean, they definitely abuse their employees. I'm just thinking about it legally speaking. Like, are we going to be getting like, if the government's going to intervene, like what is the better world that you're seeing on the other side? Like if we break up Amazon, does that lead to unionization? I don't see how that like point A leads to point B. This is funny. Woodsman gas station is sued by gas giants for having lower gas prices. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Driving wages down. Is driving wages down a negative thing? Right? I mean, low wages mean low prices for consumers. We got to like, that's the thing is, if we're going to have like a cohesive argument going forward, and like I say, I'm open to these kinds of things. Like breaking up Amazon feels like something I should be for. It feels weird that they own so much, but like we have to like be very concise and clear in our policy objectives. Like, what do we want? Like, what's the bad? And then how is breaking up the monopoly going to solve that? And like once you can establish that as a clear goal, then let's go for it. Like if there's monopoly where they're price gouging, splitting them up has a clear benefit, because like, oh, if there's two companies, now they have to compete and the prices go down, right? That's pretty clear. I can explain it in like 2 sentences why like breaking up a price gouging monopoly would be good. But like where is the advantage in breaking up Google and Amazon? So it's just that's what I'm looking for. I mean, these just I'm not not the food for thought for next time. But this is the all right. So I'll talk to you guys later. Carmine, you still on for me to say thank you?
Yes, sir. Bowie, I think you have one more super chat left.
Oh yeah,
I think so.
Let me go back. Oh, I haven't played Elden Ring. I get asked about Elden Ring a lot because everybody's very interested in the lore comparisons, and if George R. Martin was actually part of it. The lore was written by George, and there's this ancient creepy magic tree, the Erd tree, where all the dead souls go. That does sound like a werewood. And then they find out that it might actually be evil parasitic. That's interesting. People have been asking me about it a lot, and I've been trying to find online like a good description of the Elden Ring lore, because I don't want to, spend 1 million man hours like playing Elden Ring to like figure it all out. But I'm really surprised that I haven't been able to find like a good, concise description of like what the plot is and like what's going on with it. You played any, Carmine?
No. I'm building my computer right now to where graphic card prices are finally down. So I might buy a new graphics card and play on the PC with like mods and stuff like that. So, but even then, this is a Souls game, and it's a very fun Souls game from what I hear. It's one of those games where, like, if you want to play, you play. They won't throw the lore down your throat. So you could probably find some things out on it from YouTubers. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Carmine, and thank you everyone for hanging out with me today. And we'll see you guys probably not next week, but the week after. Okay. All right. Later, guys.